Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a newer type of video. This is pretty much just a actually. I know I was thinking about doing a playthrough, but I just opted not to, especially because I want to take as much time as possible with the game. Especially since I did platinum the first game, I may as well do the same with this one. But I actually have a special guest this time around.
Howdy. Finally, for
I
a very
know
long time.
it has been a very long time since we last had you on anything.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know when the last time you were on the podcast was, but I'm sure you would probably want to
Yeah,
come
it's
back
it,
at some point.
yeah, no, I do. I just, I see some of the talking points, and I'm just like, I don't know if my input's going to be super strong with that for a lot of things. Although a lot of it ends up just being about games and movies anyway. So I was like, I should just hop in at some point.
As like,
Yeah, I was gonna say your mic was cutting out a little bit in the beginning. I don't know if that was just in the recording or if it's just an internet thing, but you seem okay now. I don't know if you just want to double check that or not.
it's gonna be a little bit of an internet thing, so I might have to repeat
Okay.
myself a couple times. It's actually like
Okay.
it's super windy out here, so it might mess
Mm,
with it a bit. So we'll see
okay.
how it goes through the
Mm,
recording, but we'll figure it out. But I think the way I have it titled, it's Ghost of Yotei after the platinum, just like thoughts and feelings on the
yeah.
game,
Mm,
especially Tsushima has had a very big impact on me, especially with COVID time being a thing.
mm,
And I have something on like the first video that unfortunately it's not going to be shown as part of the background footage. My dumb face is there. It's going to just be a little jarring, see like my face cam footage and then just doing this. But I
yeah.
do actually have a Jin's mask as a tattoo on my arm.
Hell
So
yeah.
I'll throw a picture up probably during the recording, but basically it's one of my favorite PS4 games, I would say. It's up there. It's kinda like it floats between, like, that game, God of War 2018, and probably The Last of Us, like, PS4 remaster, but that's really it. Like, at least off the top of my head that I can think of for,
Yeah,
like
I can those are pretty much like 20 between what 20 like 18 and 2020, Ghost, God of War 4, Spider-Man 1, Red Dead 2, Last of
Spider-Man
Us
1, yeah.
1. Those are like kind of the big hitters of the PS4 generation. I think even if like you're not super into those games, I think they're worth just experiencing. One of those games that's just worth experiencing like once at least, just for the story and everything,
Mhm.
and how really influential and in some ways, I guess some of them are kind of groundbreaking in certain aspects. But yeah, those are like peak gaming games.
Yeah, those are, like that was I would probably say is, like, some of Sony's best work, just, like, hands down.
Yeah.
Because I think, because I think this is just, like, one thing that I kinda just realized about, like, some of the Sony games is, like, now their sequels tend to kinda have a bit of a varying quality issue at times.
Mm,
I mean, if we quickly just talk about it, I mean, let's put it this way. I think Ragnarok is good, but I think it completely destroys, like, 2018 story at times, because a lot of
mm,
2018 had was very interpersonal moments that was well developed for the characters, and then all of a sudden, because I guess, they wanted to finish up the Norse mythology, they just wanna wrap
mm.
that up.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man 2, I think you and I both agree, we don't think that game was as good as people really like to think it is. It's not
Yeah.
bad, but it's not great.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I won't say that opinion for later, but yeah, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with those games, but I do think there's just something special about that first experience with the first title that the second game does build upon some really interesting things that the first game did, but you're kind of never going to. You can only like get capture lightning in a bottle once. It's never going to really hit the same as like that first experience from that first title.
Mhm.
Just because it was something so fresh and new, and it's like, well, how do we really build upon this? Uh, and that possibly will maybe come up later. Who knows? Maybe I don't know.
We may possibly bring it up, but
Maybe.
maybe, but it just kinda depends on the conversation, but, like, I can definitely tell you
Yeah.
this, I think with Ghost of Yotei, considering, like, that track record of, like, well, how do you make Tsushima better? I think it's the really big question, like, when it came down to it. once
Tsushima or
we
Yotei?
how did Tsushima, like, once we heard, like, Ghost of
Mm.
Yotei was announced, it was kinda like, "That's awesome, we're
Oh, I see what
getting
you're saying. Yeah.
a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima," but it's like, how the hell do you make it better? And
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was kind of convinced early on because I was like, well, if you look at a lot of the other AAA first party Sony IPs, they're kind of just the next. What's the word I'm looking for? They're just the continuation of the story from the first games. It's like kind of a direct continuation of the events of the first game. So it's hard to kind of escape a lot of sameness of those games because you just can't help it when you have a direct sequel that takes place very shortly after the events of the first game. So how do you really take that and you know do an evolution of that when it becomes so familiar and it's not as different? It doesn't separate itself enough. Once I heard that it was taking place so many hundreds of years after with a different character in a different area with different enemies, I was pretty set that I was pretty confident that it was going to at least set itself apart enough um, where it wouldn't feel like a Ragnarok or a Spider-Man 2. And for the most part, I do think it succeeds in that. I do think there's evolution with characters and in gameplay aspects and elements where there is enough there, even though it is, the sequel in the story. There is enough there to separate itself from Tsushima. For a lot, like I said, mainly with a lot of gameplay mechanics and a lot of different things they implemented with quality of life stuff and things like that. So I was pretty sold early on that it would be at least either gameplay or at least totally different from Tsushima. I think it does succeed in a lot of ways.
yeah, definitely. Because especially considering, like, obviously with Tsushima, it's the start of the ninja or shinobi
Mm,
archetype of, like, warriors.
mm,
And then once Yotei happens, I mean, there's a whole faction that is based on shinobis, like,
yeah.
which we'll get to. But um and I think what I would say about, like, Tsushima story, it felt like obviously there's grand stakes in everything, especially because
Yeah.
it was a whole invasion on the
Mm,
island. And obviously, Jin, he has to abandon the samurai code in order to
mhm,
just save people by any means necessary, even if
yeah.
it breaks his own code of honor. Now,
Mm,
when you get to Yotei, if you think about it realistically, you're kind of a small blip in a very big kind of like setting or like war. Consider
yeah,
with
exactly.
Clan Saito and the Matsumai,
Mhm,
but Atsu's character is just driven by revenge,
mm,
and that's just one of the
mm,
best things. Like, even though it's a typical revenge story,
mm,
I'd argue it's still well done for a revenge story.
yeah. So did you want to start at kind of the top of where you had your ideas, or did you kind of just want to bounce around? And because for me, I mean, we could talk about the story, but that's kind of something that I had at the bottom of my my
Yeah,
notes.
I think
Um,
yeah, I'll try not yeah, we'll come back to the story, but
mm,
I think we gotta get let's hit the big things right out the gate.
yeah,
Visually, it's just
yeah,
Tsushima, but prettier somehow.
yeah,
Just there's no other way to put it.
yeah. For me, I do think that it is an objectively better looking game than Tsushima. Um, I It has better lighting, the FOV, the draw distance, higher res textures. Um, Overall, the game. I think a really big thing that I did not expect this game to have over Tsushima is its actual presentation. You get to certain areas and you're able to, or even mainly, I think like that second grasslands area. Where you're kind of just riding and you can come across groups of horses and you're just riding with the horses and the flowers and the environment is kicking up and you can see the entirety of the landscape and the way it's presented. And even when you get to certain shrines or certain high areas, you can see the entirety of the landscape, which has happened in Tsushima, but there's just a much more like cinematic nature to Yotei that Tsushima just kind of doesn't have. I think Yotei is presented in a much, I guess to me, just a much better and like cinematic and beautiful way. That being said, though, I think they went for a slightly more realistic art style. I mean, the bones of the the ghost, I'll just call it the ghost art style,
Yeah.
is clearly there. Um, with the wind and the flowers and the like, all that's obviously there. But I do think that it does have just a tweak of more realism to it, which because of that, I actually think Tsushima is a more like prettier and beautiful game. I think some of the colors that are on the island in Tsushima, just certain environments, I think are actually like I won't say better looking, but they're just like more beautiful. I feel like Tsushima has a bit more of like a dedicated and committed art style to like making everything so gorgeous. And it's not necessarily better or worse, but I just think Tsushima's more so like use of color and environment. I think it's a little bit more what I like. Although Tsushima is better looking and the way it's presented is fantastic. Everywhere you go is just a absolute modern work of art. Some of
Yeah.
the screenshots I took of some of the landscapes is stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There were like so many times that when I played Yotei, I was like, you have to stop to take a photo. There's like you can't
yeah,
just or you just have to sit there and just bask in the nature of the game, the environments, whether you're going to like
yeah.
the shrines or even in like what you mentioned earlier, you're riding with the horses or the wildlife just out in the
Mm,
grasslands. It's just like, and mind you, this
yeah.
game did not, I mean, to my knowledge, I mean, at least from my own playthrough, I didn't really see any performance issues, which is the crazy thing
Yeah,
in modern times.
I don't know how Sucker Punch does it. They are absolute wizards. They're technical wizards, and they're wizards of crafting a natural and organic open world. It's nothing short of like I don't know. It's just it's such a technical marvel and such a creative like the way they just craft this complete package, especially with the open world, the exploration, and everything. It's just like it's jaw dropping, really. There's you know um, after beating it, there's times where I'll just log onto the game and I'll be like, look at this goddamn game, man. This is just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, it's just I don't know, like they're just wizards in crafting and polish and animations and performance. Like I had some very minor minuscule stutters in going through some really dense areas in the game at times, but it never took away from the experience ever.
Exactly.
They're polished, and this was before really. I mean, I'm sure that was a day one patch, but before more updates and hot fixes started rolling in. I mean, I think I beat the game relatively quickly before a lot of those started rolling in, and even as like a day one game, like it still ran phenomenally. It's
Hmm.
ridiculous how well they're able to polish that game.
Yeah, definitely. And to kind of just bring back to like the whole like environment thing. You were mentioning
Mm-hmm.
that the game just felt, or it seemed like it was shooting for more of a realistic kind of look into
Mm-hmm.
a feudal Japan era. And
Yeah, and
looking
sorry.
at the other
Mm,
environments, I mean, because if we just talk about them, like Yotei Grasslands immediately, that's just like the first area you're going to go to,
yeah.
and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of know everything from just looking
Mm-hmm.
at it. Then you go
Yeah,
to say um Kachi Range, which I believe that's where the Oni is, unless
yeah, that
I'm
sounds right. Yeah.
yeah, wherever the
Um,
Oni is, basically. Then it's like you can
yeah,
see it's like,
yeah,
oh, it's war. It's literally just like
yeah.
fire, and I mean the orange trees as well is kind of like, I mean, if that wasn't obvious as well, I mean the whole just like they're in the middle of their own war too, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
like then you try to go to the Yari Master, it's just it feels different out there,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, each location does have its own identity, which is nice.
yeah, that's
I
already
feel
like
like it's
that's the thing that we usually want for an open world. If it has an identity, that's already a good start.
yeah, especially in Teshio Ridge. I feel like that snow area is done a lot better than this area in Tsushima.
I think yeah, that it definitely is because like Itechio
Yeah.
Ridge, like I would have thought it's just like it's snow and that's it, and then it's like no, there's there's just areas that are like normal looking, but it has like snow patches, and then there's actual like dense snow areas as well.
Yeah, you get certain areas where you start freezing if you get too high up in elevation. Like it's a cooler snow version than Tsushima was. It feels more like an area in like Red Dead,
Yeah,
where like the environment is a bit more impactful to the character than the player. And even like the way the snow looks, there's actual like sparkles and light reflection in the snow. It's just really nice.
yeah,
I'm glad they really were able to make that area of the game better over Tsushima. I don't think that's the only area is a bit forgettable to me in that game.
yeah. I honestly just the only thing I know, like that last act for Tsushima was literally just like, oh, you're just in a snow area, and your horse
Yeah.
died,
I was like,
and
I
that's
got
it.
ghost armor, cool.
And I got my ghost armor, but now at what cost? I'm at depression because I lost my horse.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it has the
Um,
music playing too when you're on that long shot of Jin
mm,
and the horse escaping, but the horse is like on its last legs.
yeah, I was like, why, man? I just get this over with.
Yeah.
Yeah, even yeah. I mean, on top of all that, the only downside I would say, even though the game it does have a bit more of a realistic tone to it in its art style. I mean, I will say all the pre-rendered cutscenes, all the characters look fantastic. I
Oh
think
yeah.
the detail in that is really good. I do though feel like there are moments, well, maybe not even moments, but I feel like just overall in general, like NPC dialogue and like movement looked kind of like stiff and
Yes.
robotic, and a lot of the I'm trying to see where I actually put this. Yeah, especially the animations, they didn't look very good. They look really stiff and not really organic, like a human would walk. And I even think outside of pre-rendered cutscenes, whatever facial animation rig Sucker Punch uses isn't all that great. It just didn't look super. And I know that it's not going for super realistic art style, but I feel like it almost looked worse than Tsushima. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's
I
because, yeah, no, I was just saying, I don't know if it's because, like, I don't know if it's actually worse or if it's because the world looks so good and you have these characters and these faces that don't look or move that great. I don't know if it's just more jarring and noticeable in this game. The only other thing, and I do really want to play this game in Japanese whenever New Game Plus comes out. I feel like there's sometimes where the English voice actors really kind of hammed up the Japanese a little too much. Like I feel like there
yeah.
was moments where a
Yeah, there's
character literally was like, "Oh, Riri," and I'm like, that doesn't
like
feel
I'm gonna
good.
be honest, there was a clip I saw of them comparing like English to dub, and it was
Uh-huh.
the first time you see Saito again, like when you go into the fortress. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of like there's something about the I mean the English one didn't sound bad, but there's something about the Japanese one. I was like, I think I like that a little bit more.
Yeah, I really want to replay the game to see if that makes the game feel any different, because that was kind of a bit of a distracting thing for me. I think for the most like the main cast it was okay, but some like side missions and some other characters like are literally pronouncing their L's with R's like really intently, and I'm like, this doesn't I don't know, this doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
So I really want to see what the game is like in Japanese for sure. But though in terms of like the environment and like the characters and everything, I think that was probably like my really only issues with the art style.
Yeah, because I think that with Tsushima, there was something about like the character like facial animations that actually when you look at it, it those felt like actual people
Yeah,
doing
I
the
feel like
characters.
the pre-rendered cutscenes in that game did look fine, but I feel like they weren't really super zoomed in on characters outside of pre-rendered cutscenes, so it didn't seem as noticeable. But I feel like in this game, the camera is in tighter when characters are just talking in the
Mhm.
world, and so it feels more noticeable. Maybe I don't know. Again, I haven't played through Tsushima in a very, very, very long time. I did go back after I beat Yotei just to get like a general feel of how the game felt in comparison. So there's really not a whole lot I can confidently really say about like the story of long standing pros and cons about that game, but just as a feel, I kind of got that. But yeah, no, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, definitely. Um,
Mm.
but we'll revisit these little talking points probably like once we get to the spoilers section. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
um, I guess a quick little thing to talk about. The music in the game, it's good. There's nothing else to say. It's good. It just feels it's very in tone with kind of like similar to Tsushima, but they did add a new version of the music, which is Watanabe mode to honor Shinichiro Watanabe, who is known mostly for Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. My note here is simply fantastic.
Yeah,
um,
it's
I think
good.
yeah, well, I think for me, I just really, really, really love like the more Western tone of the game overall, but really the Western inspired kind of Japanese music with the implementation of the shamisen. I just think like the more Western vibes in the music it sounds great. And I think in a lot of ways preferred over kind of just traditional Japanese music of Tsushima. There's some moments in the music in this game where I really love it. I think it's great. And yeah, Watanabe mode. It's kind of like I think it's kind of like all the other modes where it's just like a really cool kind of switch up an aesthetic if you want to implement into the game. If you want to have that option on, that changes, just open in world music, and then the combat music I think is really cool. But
Yeah,
it's just
I
like
would.
a
I'd
different
probably
way
want to
to.
look up the sound. I probably would want to look up the music for the battle version of that because it's
Yeah,
the way it starts is like a I don't know if that's like a synth or something, but
I don't
it's
know. It's just
it
it's super cool
it
to me.
I was just like, dude, that is sick.
Yeah,
But
I want a full playthrough in Watanabe and BK mode together. I think that'd be super sick. But
yeah,
yeah, it's just one of the gimmicky modes. It is really cool though. But yeah, overall, I think I have pretty much zero issues with the music. I think it's fantastic, and I do think I actually prefer it in almost everywhere over Tsushima's music.
yeah. And then I think like honestly, for anyone who's gonna play the game for the first time, I would just say maybe leave out Watanabe mode because it does kind of start to reach a point where it's just like, okay,
Yeah,
it's a bit repetitive.
yeah, I think it loops the same few tracks when you're just exploring, and I think the combat track is probably the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, for first
it's
time
never
playthrough, definitely.
it's yeah,
Yeah,
the
just
battle track never varied. The only time that you don't hear Watanabe mode is more of the key like boss fights or key moments in the game. It's not like the entire
oh,
soundtrack is
interesting.
entirely
Gotcha.
but
Yeah,
I
no, it's
would
just a
say
cool gimmick.
play the normal track. That's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah. Visually and music wise, I would just say for a first playthrough, yeah, definitely just keep everything default. Unless you really, 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 really love Akira Kurosawa movies and old 50s movies from
Yes, I guess we may as well
Japanese
transition
movies.
into it. Kurosawa mode
Um,
is back. Good old
yeah,
black and white Japanese mode. And
I, I,
to my,
I
to
think
my
it looks better.
understanding, it's much better.
I like it. Um, I mean, obviously Kurosawa mode is nice in both games. But for some reason, I think it has to do with how, again, back to Yotei's presentation. I think it has a naturally more kind of epic and cinematic presentation that putting it in Kurosawa mode just gives it. I don't know, like it feels more right, right? It feels more cinematically appropriate for that game than it did for Tsushima.
Hmm.
And I would never, ever, ever recommend this on any other game ever. But there's something about playing it in Kurosawa mode, actually in 30 FPS, that just kind of feels nice. It is a little bit jarring if you had a whole playthrough in 60 FPS to get used to it, but after like, you know, 20 minutes, you're fine.
Yeah.
Actually, it feels more natural for that mode. But again, obviously the same issue that I have with Tsushima. It takes away a lot from the art style, and even more so than Tsushima, I feel like it takes away a lot from the sound design. Because
Yes.
that's something that I think is done much better in this game as well. Like combat sound design, just sound design in general. But like especially with the weapons and the combat, it does take away a lot of that. depth and real nice crunch and good sound design from the combat. But again, it's just another one of those really kind of neat aesthetic gimmicky things. If you just want to throw it on there, it works perfectly fine. Um, Obviously, if you're playing on harder difficulties, I don't know if I'd super recommend it because obviously same issue that Tsushima has. You can't tell the difference between parryable and unblockable attacks unless you have 1,000 hours in the game and just remember every move.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, and also obviously playing it in black and white in 30 FPS makes it harder to react to combat. But like I said, for just a cool aesthetic gimmick, it works and it looks great, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Haven't played much of Mike mode. The biggest thing I've heard is that there's just too much mud, and that's about it. I haven't really
Mud.
played a lot
Got
of it
it.
though. Yeah, there's a lot of mud.
I mean,
But that's the
that
only thing
is
I
what
really
they
heard.
said too with this mode. It was just it's basically like what is it? It's enhanced blood and mud effects or something like that, and it's like a
Yeah,
more zoomed in camera.
yeah. The combat camera is a lot tighter, and then yeah, much more blood and much more mud. But even people are like, yeah, it's just way too much mud. They need to tone that shit down. But again, Mike mode and Watanabe mode are things I was more so saving for like a second New Game Plus playthrough. So I'll probably just get more time with those. Um, once Sucker Punch decides to release a New Game Plus.
Yeah,
So
honestly, I think
like
that's
a conversation.
yeah, that's a whole other conversation. Maybe a little later, like a lot of
Yeah,
things we got to put off. Um,
yeah,
last two things. I guess we got to talk. We'll quickly talk about exploration. I think something about this game's exploration feels a lot better versus Tsushima.
yeah. I
I
agree.
I think it's and again, I think it's like what did Ghost of Tsushima have for their exploration was done very well already. It's not like
Yeah,
aggressive with its UI. The wind mechanic is great. And I think in this game, I think it's like a lot easier actually to look for stuff in this game.
yeah. I hadn't spent much time going back to Tsushima, but at first immediate playthrough, I did feel like the exploration was much more engaging and much more fun to do in this game. Not that it wasn't in Tsushima, but for I think maybe the spyglass added a lot to it.
Yes.
And having your horse just travel faster throughout the environment helps a lot too. I felt like the progression that you receive, the rewards you receive from exploration are even better in this game. And there's just like, man, there's almost too much to do. Like all of it is so densely packed into this world. You come across so many things and so many people and so many activities, and they all for the most part will give you something. Um, every POI has a specific purpose, whether it's immediate in that moment or it's something that you come back to later on. It'll give you something, right? There's so much more incentive to explore in this game. I feel like I think the only things that I can really think of that were quote unquote negatives, climbing shrines as still fun and like pretty as it is when you get to the top, it's not super engaging. You're just holding the left stick
It's a lot
and
of
you just
left
kind of
stick and
go.
jumping and an occasional R2 with the hook.
Yeah, I would like it. It would be cool if it felt more like, I guess, more like an Uncharted game or something where you're actually actively like pressing this to do this and trying to gauge gaps and trying to, maybe even offer more variety and navigate in which like path to navigate up to it. Maybe there's like an easy path, like a hard path, and based on what you choose gives you different rewards or something like that. Or you can like find stuff on the harder path that you don't on the easy path, something like that. But yeah, just not super engaging, but still like a still good activity to have in the game. And even though the Traveler's Map was a great, I think, quality of life feature just to like pinpoint certain POIs and things on the map, I feel like it maybe did take away from the exploration feeling already as organic as it is, and made it a bit more checklisty, even though it's not really like a serious gripe because it's an option that you have to do to buy Traveler's Map and to place it if you want to do it. And for like I said, for the most part, it's a great quality of life thing to have in there, so you're not just like feeling lost in what you want to do. But I think there are ways that the game could have made exploration a bit more mechanic. Not even having a map at all would have been interesting, especially if you're going to have a spyglass for kind of that purpose. of like scoping out an entire area. But I still think it's a good mechanic to have. But I think there are ways to implement a more organic feeling. But Sucker Punch already did so well with it. Like I don't, it doesn't. It's not that like it takes away from much. Really, it's just one of those, a minor thing.
Yeah, to kind of like talk about like the map thing real quick. I would
Mhm.
probably say that's I would s- I would definitely say if you start to stack maps, that's when it sort of starts to feel very checklisty at times. So
Yeah, I
like
would just buy like four maps at a time. Just
yeah, I was
they're
just
ready
like,
to go. They're
okay,
ready to do.
if Isaburo has maps, I'm just gonna go buy them. And if I
Go
have
get them.
money,
Yeah.
it's like if I have money, I'm gonna buy it. And funny enough, which will I may as well just say it, for some weird reason, I seem to always run out of coin. It's like, and I think it was
You
just
got to play
because
Zenny Hajiki, man.
uh, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that game.
Yeah,
To say
I never really had that issue, but yeah,
but yeah, when you told me that you never had that issue, I was like, what the hell did you fucking do
I
to
had way too
just
much. Well, I think when I got to an area, I would collect every bounty I could. And well, the way I was playing it, I was pretty much doing every single side activity in an area for the first like few areas and then doing the main story stuff. But then, halfway more, three-quarters way through the game, I was like, well, a lot of these POIs I come to are naturally you get drawn to by doing story stuff. So I'm just, instead of like blatantly ignoring story stuff and just doing all the side stuff around it, I'm just going to kind of flow naturally with where the game is putting me. And, I'll do some side stuff, do a story, do some side stuff, and it kind of like charts you through the map in a natural way anyway, which is really cool. Um, but yeah, I was just doing all the bounties and getting, gambling at Zenny Hajiki until the guy was like, I got a charm. And I'm like, hell yeah. And then I did it, got a charm, and then I was done. So I played like 3 or 4 games of Zenny Hajiki. And every time I lost, I was like, I need my coin back. I never conceded. I never conceded defeat. I always got my money back from that game.
so
But yeah, I think that's just kind of how it worked out.
um there were a couple times definitely though I did mess up on Zenny Hajiki. Mostly
Hmm.
just it's more of I would underestimate the distance I would have to hit with the coin.
Yeah,
And to say
I
the
low
least,
key feel like no, sorry.
I would there were a couple occasions I literally was like, I'm going to punch my monitor because I just lost so much money. And there was a point I was just on a severe losing streak and I literally just
Oh
got
my
this coin
god.
for practically nothing. I think I
I
won, but at not really won. I more of
what
lost
what
too much.
cost?
I lost too much.
Um, I low key feel like there's certain tables in the game that were like faster or slower than others. I'm like, why is my coin sliding all the way across this table? And some I flick it and it goes nowhere. I'm like, what's happening here? It is funny because they're, spoiler if you love Zenny Hajiki and don't want this to get spoiled because there's a specific table. So spoiler warning. Um, there was one table that you go to and I didn't realize it. And I was like, my coin just didn't go where I want it to go. And you find out the guy's cheating and has like fake coins. That was kind of fun. But
I
yeah,
actually wait, I'm trying to remember if I ever ran into that actually, because
I think it's like this farmstead area where you go to the old lady that has the kunais. I think it's one of her little farmsteads or something. There's like a
oh,
there's like
okay,
a
okay. I know
gambling
which one
den
you're
next to it.
it's a
Yeah.
bounty, right?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
yep.
so. And he's
Okay, I
like,
know which one.
if you want to, I'll let you take my bounty. If something like that, whatever it is. But that was the one in the game that was kind of funny. I was like, what the? I was like, because initially I was like, wait, what the hell just happened? I know I didn't do that. And then I was like, oh, he's cheating. That makes sense.
Okay.
And then you got to like go into the rooftop and swap the coins and come back down. Yeah.
So okay, that's funny. Because when I was like kind of going through the game, as kind of like part of my kind of 100% playthrough, like if I pull up my screen, like if I pull up my PlayStation, for some reason I'm on a perpetual 96%, and I'm like, I have no idea what else I'm supposed to fucking do at this point. Like I don't know if it's a mission I maybe possibly missed, but all I just know is I can assure you.
Even right now, you are.
I mean, I haven't checked it recently, but I'm probably gonna look at it later. But last time I checked, it was 96.
Did you
So
do you? Well, you have a platinum for it.
I do have platinum. I have the platinum, and I if I go through like the little like growth page, it says I have
Yeah.
everything done. All so here's the funny thing that I was gonna bring about Zenny Hajiki. There was at one point I was like, dude, what the hell is it? I was missing one table, and I was like, where
Yeah.
the fuck is this last table? And then, sure enough, it's all the way in it's in Takachi range. I literally just skipped over it for whatever reason. I was
The
so
Oni place or Teshio Ridge in the snow?
um Oni.
Because the one I was missing was the one right outside of what's that? The tea house that's on the ice. That's like one of the ones I
The
missed. I was
Sake
like, how did I
House
miss
or
this
something
one?
like that?
Yeah. I think it's with the Nakajima Sake house. The
Yeah.
one that's on that ice area.
Yes.
Yeah, I missed that one.
I
I
know
was
which
like,
one
how
you're
did I
talking
miss this
about.
one? Yeah.
Yeah, there was like one point, like, if I was just like, I'm literally just fast traveling to all these Zenny Hachiki tables. I'm like, I'm just gonna play a game and see if maybe it goes away or it fills in
Yeah,
that last one.
exactly.
And I'm like, where the fuck?
No, I was like, did I get all the charms from the tables? And I kept going back and I was like, yeah, I got all the charms. What's going on here? I did like follow a guide and I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was like, and of course, like, what is the cue that you didn't visit a table? There's always two. There,
Two
two
people
guys.
there?
There's always two people.
Oh, I never realized that.
See, and it just crossed my mind that I was like, oh my god, that makes sense. There's always two
Mhm.
guys, and one of them leaves because he lost out his charm. So
Oh, interesting. Did not know that. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that was
Yeah, a lot of the side content that game's super fun.
yeah. A lot of stuff does come back to this game. As we mentioned earlier, altars are back, in any way, shape, or form. Whether it's just like
Yeah. Mhm.
it's literally somewhere like as trivial as literally just walk through this cave and it's there.
Yeah.
And others are just actual like climbs, uh
And so many
camps.
of them in those hideouts in Tesha Ridge. I was like,
Yeah.
you go to like this, you climb up this shrine, then you go to the back of this mountain, and there's a hideout and there's an altar. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I gotta stealth all this
I'm
again,
going to
Jesus.
admit, I will admit, like, I think Teshio Ridge is going to be the one that a lot of people are going to be very divisive on because it's either very interesting or it's very tedious.
Yeah, for me, it's one of those that meme where it's like playing a game again, playing that one area. It's kind of that meme for me.
Yeah,
The
I would definitely say Teshio
Dathomir
Ridge is
of Yotei.
mm, yeah.
No, not nowhere near as bad as Dathomir though. But I think at least gameplay wise, it's where the game gets the most interesting because you have this enemy faction that's like you said, these ninjas and shinobis that are
Yeah.
hiding
So
in the height.
let's just
I have a dude. I have a gameplay clip where I was in my spyglass and I got jump scared because one of them came out of a bush and attacked me while I was in the spyglass. I did not hear them.
oh my god. Okay,
I
if
was
you
like,
could
that's pretty incredible. Yeah.
oh my god, you Ghosts of Yotei jump scares are I did
It
not that's
was I
not
was like I legit jumped out of jumped out of my cover. I was like, what the hell was that? And you snuck up on me out of a bush. I was in the spyglass.
that's great.
Yeah. Absurd. Um
Oh man,
but no,
that's
I
wow.
think it's a good area. Because albeit, yeah, some of it can be a bit tedious and a bit, it's definitely the most challenging area from like a gameplay and combat standpoint. But I think it does make it really interesting having this enemy faction that acts like no other enemy faction in the game up until that point.
Yeah,
So I think having that diversity is really nice to have in that area.
yeah, definitely. Um,
Mm.
and it also feels like you have to like really change up how you approach a lot of fights with the Ninetales. Because every other faction just
Yeah,
low-key just feels like just fight them and that's it. You can just
yeah,
take them
'cause-
on like normal. Like I think if anything, the Oshima Coast faction is they're a little more like annoying because they also have a lot of riflemen like
yeah,
involved. So I would say maybe that maybe is a change up, but it's more of a change up as in it can get a little annoying. But I would say Ninetales
yeah.
probably tests you in combat.
Because of the Ninetales, the first enemy faction you come across that also have Kusurigamas. Is
Yes.
that right? Yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty yes, that they have Kusarigamas. Everyone else usually has like dual sickles.
Yeah, and those fuckers are fast too. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you get like it's hard to like get a tell on the attacks and the timing for the Kusurigamas too. I was like, Jesus Christ, man, I'm gonna smoke by these things.
Yes,
But yeah,
indeed. But
it can be a very fun area.
yeah, I would probably say like Teshio Ridge is gonna, like we said, Teshio Ridge is gonna be kind of that one area that like some people are gonna like, some people are gonna hate, and
Yeah.
I understand both.
Mhm.
But
And exploration's a lot different, like I said, because of the altars are like hidden behind all these hideouts.
mhm,
It's really, I thought that was kind of cool though. But yeah, kind of for the most part, I liked it. I'll just say that.
yeah. Um,
Mhm.
Other stuff that did come back for exploration, bamboo strikes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm gonna talk
Yeah,
about one later. Like we'll talk about that
Mhm.
one
yeah,
later. Um,
yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah. And then other than that, I mean, there's also fox dens that are back, but a new one that actually is added to Yotei is the wolf den.
Mhm.
And I love the just like what is essentially the overarching story. It's literally just wolf hunters. It's as
Yeah,
simple as that. And you could tell like a lot of things doing these missions just without even like well dialogue being like said on one party. Like, and I
you
think
know,
that's just it's a testament to
yeah,
Sucker Punch.
yeah. I thought that was a neat kind of world building aspect that they implemented. That was really cool. Um, but I think for the most part, I thought the wolf was going to be much more of like a dedicated companion. But then when I found out it was more of like something that, like everything else in the game, you kind of had to like upgrade the game by like building. Well, actually, even after finding that out, I thought it would be more of like a horse bond Red Dead thing.
Yeah.
But but at least by like I wouldn't even say the end of the game. But it is a cool. It's another form of progression that's done really well from a gameplay standpoint. And it's just a natural progression thing that you do. And I think this again. I don't think there's a whole lot to say about it, but it is very very fun fighting with the wolf, doing certain specific wolf executions and having the chance to survive a killing blow with him just coming out of nowhere is really 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 fun.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think the limitation of having that just kind of mixes up combat even more and just makes it more fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I don't know if we really actually went, harkened on combat very much yet.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll be on it in a
yeah.
bit.
Mhm.
Let me see this list.
Hot
Hot springs are
Springs,
back.
yeah,
I hope you like Jin's ass.
AC. Jin's at?
Well, we got Jin's
Um,
ass, and now we got Atsu
uh,
ass.
yeah, hot two cheeks. Did you see the thing about Erica Ishia's girlfriend? What she said?
What did she say?
He was like, I feel like we all got robbed because that is not Erica's butt. Her butt's way bigger than that and way nicer. And I'm like, Sucker Punch, what are we doing here? What do you mean?
I mean,
Um,
if you see, seeing just like photos of Erica Ishi, I was like, yeah, she's like really small. So
yeah,
she's
yeah.
more of a shoddy kind of like build. It's more. So I was
um,
like, huh, interesting.
yeah. But no, the hot springs are good. I mean, it's kind of just what you expect from the first game. I don't know if doing those there's on some hot springs there's specific little I guess objectives that you can do where there'll be like little maybe for instance there'll be like little lanterns around it and if you like light them with your fire arrow they like play a little musical note and then you get into it. I don't know if that gives you like a little bit more health when you do the hot spring or
I
what, but
I honestly like barely noticed that part. Like I think I saw it occasionally, but I don't think it really made a difference, to be quite honest.
yeah, there was maybe like four of them or something. But yeah, I didn't really see. I think it was just a little fun little thing that they just did. But yeah, I mean, it's back and it's pretty much the same that you expect. Just gives more health when you reflect
Gives
on
more
certain
health
things. But
and just inner thoughts.
um,
That's it.
yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah. Um I will say the
See what's
funniest
next on here.
I think the funniest hot spring is literally all the samurai men just running away and they just go slide down the mountain. There was like three like
Oh, that one was funny.
I
Yeah,
was just like, oh,
they're
it's
like
like,
in their
oh,
underwear.
woman.
Yeah, like oh, okay, that's fun. See you
uh,
later.
yeah. And then of course Fox dens are back. I don't know if I mentioned that
Hmm.
already. I put drip just because it's literally just getting hats and sword kits as
Yeah,
well. There's nothing wrong with that. We like those.
Orchid's great. Yeah,
Yep.
they're all pretty good looking.
And then
Um,
okay, this one is the one that's gonna kind of like I'm gonna be quite honest. Loki just like said, I can't do this shit. I'm gonna look this shit up. The puzzles, the Mount Yotei
yeah,
puzzles are also part of the exploration in the game. There's six? There's like five or six, something like that.
yeah, something like that. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like one in every region, basically.
Mm.
The only thing I will say is at some point I think I only figured out one on my own. Everything else I was like, fuck this.
That's no, that's fair. A lot of I feel like you do a couple of them, and you're like, oh, what the hell? These are super easy. And then it gets to ones where like you move one, and then it moves the one next to like three rotations, and you're like, wait, what? What's happening here?
Yeah, so it's like the mental math is like, oh god.
Yeah, I just didn't even think about it. For those who don't know, it's usually like there's a mountain or some sort of thing in the middle of this like statue thing. I don't know, but it's like a central object, and then there's four small pillars around it that each have four individual foxes on there, and you read this little thing that's carved into the stone that kind of it's like a little it's a
Story.
hint, but it's in the form of like a riddle. Yeah. Um, and depending on what the story is, you kind of have to like turn the foxes a certain way to face the proper direction. And for the first couple ones are pretty straightforward; they're pretty easy. But then when you rotate one of them, at some point, like you'll one on the other side will rotate like three or four times. You have to like, it's just for me. I was like, I am not going to use my brain for this. I'm just going to trial and error it and just hope it works. And that kind of did work for a lot of it. Um, and there was one where I spent like 2 days on it. I was
Oh
like,
god.
I read it and I'm doing what it says. I have no idea what it can mean. And then I was like, you know when you're trying to figure something out and you're like, no, that's too easy. It's not that. And then you spend another
Oh.
hour doing something, and then you're like, wait a minute, is it that? And then you do, and it's like, God damn it, it was. I way overthought it. I way
Yeah,
overthought it.
I think that's yeah, that's just definitely one of those type of puzzles. And it's just funny because they make me think I'm like, this is like I wouldn't say this is necessarily on the levels of horror games at times where their puzzles can be just like obnoxiously complicated or they're like obnoxiously easy. It's just then you overthink it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
overall, I think it's like an okay little side thing you can do in the world.
I mean,
But on top of puzzles, I do think there were several times. I might be skipping a little bit ahead, but um, when you get to Teshio Ridge, since it's supposed to be kind of this, ninja assassin area, there are specific areas in the game that the game asks you to like solve certain things or do certain puzzles and riddles in a certain way. And as much as I kind of like that neat aspect of it, where it's like you got to solve a riddle or solve a puzzle to get into like a shrine or something like that, um, I feel like there are way too many times Atsu just talks too much. And I'm like,
yes.
why? I feel like the game thinks I'm an idiot. Like just let
Yeah.
me use my environment. You crafted this open world with such detail and such great environments. Let me use the environment. Let me look around and figure out what I'm supposed to do. And like I spend like 30 seconds figuring it out. Then Atsu's like, well, maybe it could be this. So I'm like, I'm not watching Dora the Explorer. Just let me figure it out myself.
It's
I got it.
and
It
it's
was kind of
funny
sad because I
it's
feel like
funny
the
you
game thought I
mentioned
was
that.
dumb. Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned that because like that just made me kind of like think of like how in God of War Ragnarok, Atreus never shuts the fuck up.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
like, I don't.
I think
It's
more
like,
so in
hey,
the first
maybe
game
if you
though.
throw your axe like up there, it's like, shut up, boy.
Yeah, please just let me figure it out. That's what about like the puzzle stuff. Like it was cool, but like so it was like maybe if I do this, I'm like, yes, that's yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. Like that's what it is. You don't have let me figure it out, please. Let
Yeah,
me feel smart,
it's
please. And even
let
then,
me feel.
like the puzzles aren't even that difficult. They're very I mean, I don't mean to, call anybody out who had a hard time with it, but they are kind of for the most part like elementary puzzles that you spend 20 seconds be like, okay, got it, that's what it is. And it's not too difficult. There was some that were a little tricky, but for the most part they're not too bad. And the fact that the game feels the need to like literally talk you through it and there's like no way to turn like puzzle hints off, as far as I know. It was a little annoying, just a little bit.
And it's funny too because this is just kind of playing this game. It's like literally on the cusp of me just like finishing Silent Hill F, where I swear to
yeah,
I'm just gonna tell you right now, a lot of my recordings, I can assure you about 30 minutes or an hour was literally me staring at a puzzle
yeah,
and
yeah.
feeling really fucking stupid. And it's like the
But I
most
kind of
like
like that. That
but don't get me wrong, I think some are like well done, and then there are some that are like, I don't know what the fuck you want from me.
I see.
But I do agree though, like I don't want someone to just yell in my ear, maybe if you do it this way, you know?
Yeah,
Like I
like Jesus
like
Christ.
just let me use the environment, let me figure it out. Just give me my
Yeah,
moment to feel
give me,
smart.
yeah, give me some time. I'll get it. Yeah,
It's
that was the really frustrating part about it.
yeah, definitely. Um
Mm.
and then I think we got to get to the real meat of this game. Talk about that combat,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Oh.
I got some things to say.
Well,
um,
okay, so I guess let's start off rip. All the
mm,
stances that Jin learns is gone. They are
yeah.
replaced by weapons now. So
Mm,
obviously you have your normal katana, then you can have the ability to use a dual katana, a yari, which is basically a spear, the
mm,
kusarigama, and then the adachi blade, or pretty much just
mm.
a big ass fucking katana, or what I kind of jokingly like to call Sephiroth's sword.
Yeah, it's a good time. Did you mention dual blades? I
Yes,
don't know
I
if you
did.
did. I was looking through my list. Okay, I'm sorry, I was
You are good.
distracted.
You are good.
um,
Yeah, that's in the game, and then most of the equipment has pretty much returned. I think the only omissions really was a poison dart, and I feel like there was like
yeah, the
another
blow
weapon.
dart.
Blow dart is gone now because now we have basically the Second Amendment, the
Yeah.
long
Oh
version, and
yeah, we do.
the handheld one.
Um, I think there were poison kunais in Tsushima, no? Or were there not?
There was poison arrows. I don't know about poison kunais though.
I think there's poison kunais in Yotei.
Maybe
Maybe.
I think I
I
barely.
think I remember.
All right, no wait, no. Kunais was usually you have a charm. There probably was a charm with poison kunais, but I always used the
I
fire
think
one.
so. I don't remember. Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I could be wrong
Um,
on that.
yeah, and then Atsu also gets the like concussive or like blinding bombs, and then like straight up dynamite. And I'm like, all right, Jesus
Yes.
Christ.
Yeah. I think
Hmm.
this was where I was beginning to notice. I'm like, why does it feel like there's a little less on the equipment side? And I'm like, maybe I'm going crazy,
Mm,
but it feels like there's less. Even though, I mean, the blow dart was kind of like the most obvious omission, but it feels like with
mm.
bombs, it's just blind bombs and dynamite, and
Yeah,
then
you
that
don't
was
have
it.
like the wind chimes for like stealth. I mean, I guess that's more or less replaced with like sake bottles now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I didn't really find myself using a ton of like throwables outside of the kunai just as like a space creating tool.
Yes.
Um, besides that, I mean, I usually just use more of the actual handheld weapons. Um, but no, yeah, overall, I think the combat feels fantastic in this game. It's hard to say that it objectively feels better though. Um, and I'll kind of get into that. But yeah, it feels very good. The weapon variety, I think, is a lot more engaging than just simply stance switching. I think it kind of gets, I don't know, I feel like that's a bit more of a mental stack, especially with the enemy variety. And like I mentioned before, especially when you get to Teshio Ridge and you really have to try to figure out how to go about certain encounters because the enemy patterns and the way they, just the enemy design is so much different in Teshio Ridge. I wouldn't say so much different, but it's different enough where it forces you to really, especially be like weapon to line and everything like that. Um, and it is a bit more of a difficult area. The addition of the blick of Yotei
The
is
Blick of
fantastic.
Yotei.
We got a I forgot the name of it was not a Tanageru, something like that. But yeah,
Tanagashima, I
we've
believe, is
got
the is it
yeah.
something
What's the
like that.
small one called? Man, damn it.
I'm
Whatever it
blanking on
was,
it too. Damn.
the ghost of O Block I've seen. Pretty funny.
I just
Um,
remember the first time when I was playing it and I was share playing with you. You just call it the. It's just like and it's like the fact you told me on TikTok. A lot of people are instinctually yelling the noise.
the five is it's a great time. They gave
It's,
out to a Switch and it's incredible.
I'm a
The only thing
yeah.
I wish I think we had the same thing. I wish there were actual weapon skins for it though. That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
because I think the first, I mean, spoiler for this one, okay? Since we already said
mhm.
something about Zenny Hajiki, but I may as well say it. A particular, there is a musket that Oni owns, and I'm like, I have that.
Yeah, I feel like there were several times throughout the game where it was just like teasing you when you were gonna get it, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be now, oh, it's gonna be now, oh, it's gonna be now, and then it never happened. And I'm like, God, just give it to me, I
He's
need
like,
it.
give me
I'm
that
sick of using
guy.
this bow and arrow. Um, but no, both firearms are incredibly fun, especially the long rifle. It's just one of those satisfying things where you have a whole combat encounter, you're switching all the melee weapons, you're parrying this, you're dodging that, and at the very end, for the last person, you just pull it out and just blast them in the face. Pause, I guess, I don't know, but it is incredibly satisfying. That was an insane sentence, but it is incredibly satisfying. The little flintlock pistol she has doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's really good for just like stagger and just keeping
Hmm.
people off you. Um, it still is equally as fun. It's just great. It's a great time. And having, I guess this is another spoiler for the combat spoilers, having the ability to use it at the end of a standoff is just great.
Yes.
That
It's
was
such a
incredible.
honestly, I was just like, how are they gonna? Because like, what is it? I think I remember in Tsushima, you did go up to 3, like as an
Yeah,
option, and
I think
obviously it
so.
was just the normal slash slash slash. And this one,
Mhm.
it's literally slash slash shoot. Yeah, literally.
It's great.
And I was like,
It's
every time I see it, it's
fantastic.
like I have to do this. I have to do standoffs now.
No,
and
yeah,
it's
every time I did it, yeah, no, it was yeah, absolutely.
I think once you
It
get to
made doing
the
standouts worth it.
yeah, I think once you got to the firearms standoffs felt more like satisfying.
Yeah, which I hardly ever did throughout the entirety of the game, just because it doesn't really. I feel like the gameplay and the play style doesn't really want you to do that. They just want you to kind of get in there and just go crazy. Um, but so back to what I was saying before about the combat not necessarily feeling objectively better than Ghost of Tsushima's combat. Um, the combat just feels much more like wild and frenetic, and it can at times be a bit overbearing and a bit of a mental sack because you have all these different enemies, and I feel like especially later in the game, it is very important to be weapon aligned with these enemies, or else you're just like barely going to really do any damage or do any stagger damage. Um, but I feel like trying to remember which weapons align with which enemies is a little bit more difficult in this game. Not entirely sure why, but I just feel like it is. Um, and it can be a bit of a mental stack. Um, but I think overall the combat feel, like I said, it's not objectively better. And I think that's just because the feeling of the combat in Tsushima feels much more like wind or water. It flows more like water, I would say. It doesn't have that same kind of like punchy and visceral nature of like Atsu's combat. But I think because of the nature of both characters, it doesn't necessarily make it feel worse. I just feel like the combat in both games are very much appropriate for each of the characters' personalities. Even though I do, and I think most people agree, I do prefer Yotei's combat feel. But I also just think like Tsushima's combat also just kind of makes sense for the character that Jin is. And then just the way it feels like it's reflective. I feel like they're both very much reflective of each character's personalities, whether that's intentional or not. I just think that's more of like the foundation of the combat. Instead of like just making it feel a certain way, is really making it pair well with the character. And I think just Atsu being all about smoke 24/7. The combat is very reflective of that, and it's very fun, it's frenetic, it's wild. It has this real visceral, punchy nature to it. And Tsushima's combat just kind of has this nice, good, kind of even flow, more or less, to it. And I think they're both good, but I think I still prefer Yotei's combat in terms
I
of its
think
feel.
I think the funniest thing I just thought of, like in a way, if you think about it, like if Jin's combat is more, like what you said, it's kind of more, it's more water, where it's more like smooth.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
if I could think of like what kind of character, like in just other media, kind of fights like that, where it's more water. It's not necessarily like a giant punch. It's more of like death by thousand cuts kind of
Yeah.
feeling.
Hmm.
Hmm. God, I mean, can't say Raiden from fucking Metal Gear because, well, revengeance is a thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess I think the best way to describe it, it's like, okay, think of like, if we're gonna use a military example, like let's just say like SEAL Team 6. They're more
Hmm.
tactical, they do things quick, and they just keep moving.
Sure.
Now Atsu is just Doomslayer. Doesn't give a shit. Fights.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just in the mix, man. It is. I do think for the most part it is a lot of fun. Um, I the only thing I mean, going back to what I was saying about it feeling kind of frenetic and a bit overbearing at times. I feel like maybe at least, well, I played both games on hard. I feel like overall the enemy aggression and attack patterns are much different in this game. Enemies are much more aggressive, and
Yes.
for a lot of the beginning of the game, maybe enemies just kind of watch you fight each other one on one. But when you get later into the game, they are relentless in their attack patterns. They will attack you basically at the same time,
I think I
and it feels
noticed.
like,
Go
yeah.
on.
No, I was gonna say, and it feels like at times where I'll be fighting a group of enemies. Someone will have a spear, someone will have dual blades. There'll be a heavy guy, and someone will have a kusarigama. And so I'm standing there with my dual blades, waiting to fight this guy with a spear. And then someone from behind me with a katana is attacking me. So I swap to the katana, but I'm like getting hit by him. And by the time I'm able to stagger him, someone else is coming from behind me. So it's like, wait, I just got done fighting him. I got to swap back to this weapon. So I feel like with the enemy aggression in the game, it does make the combat a bit. I mean, it does make it more challenging, and it can be a bit mentally overloading at times. Um, and I feel like in Tsushima, just having the game slow down a bit for you to like kind of analyze and quickly swap to it worked. I feel like in this game, it just doesn't give you enough time sometimes. Like you're just getting jumped all the time, and just having that minor slowdown. I feel like it's not enough time to like analyze and think about what you want to do. I don't think the game necessarily needs to completely stop time and have you select a weapon, but I think having a bit more of a slowdown to really analyze and get to your next weapon to what you want to do. Because like target priority, I think is way more key in this game than it is in Tsushima. Um, I feel like kind of like isolating certain enemies and taking care of enemies in this way, and then dealing with everybody else is more important than just kind of like going all out. But yeah, I feel like maybe having a bit more time just to kind of have that slow down, maybe like another half a second or something, just to get your bearings a little bit, would be a little nice. Yeah, because I feel like I was just getting jumped, and I was like, Jesus Christ, man, this combat encounter is rough. Um, Besides that, for the most part, I was using once I got them, I almost didn't stop using the Odachi and the dual blades, just because the Odachi does so much stagger damage once you fully upgrade it, um, and the dual blades inherently do so much stagger damage just because they're so fast. You can kind of slice through a lot of the enemies in the game with those two weapons. Um, I only thought the spear and the Kusarigama were only. I didn't think they were not fun to use, but I didn't think they were as fun to use as the Odachi and the dual blades. Um, I love the way the Kusarigama animates, especially with like some of the finishing blows. They stealth weapon I thought was really fun, and it does I think does make the stealth a little more fun, even though it's still about the same and pretty basic as Tsushima's stealth. I do think that addition and having like the wolf and other partners in the game help you with stealth at times, even though it was very minor, was kind of fun. Um, but yeah, overall, I think the combat's really fun, and I do really enjoy it. And I think for the most part, I guess subjectively, as a blanket statement, I do enjoy it more than the first game. That was a lot, and I didn't mean to yap about that. But yeah, that's that. That's all
Yeah,
I got to say about the combat.
honestly, like, yeah, I think I kind of am in like the same boat where it's like I think the Adachi and the dual katanas is
Mhm.
just way more fun of a weapon to use.
Yeah,
The Yari is just kind of like it just there, but it's not like the most. The only thing you really would want to do with the Yari is just kick people, and that's it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
I think there was that little that charge move is cool, but I wish that you were able to spear more than one person with it. I think that would be a lot of fun.
I think that would have been
um,
really cool. Like if you could just like stack like 2 or 3 people, and if you want to like
mhm.
go, if you want to get more visceral with it, find a wall.
Yeah, yeah. Did that work or no? Does that work in the
I've
game?
never done it, but
Does it have yeah,
I I
I don't think it
imagine
did.
it doesn't. But
Yeah.
if it if
Mm.
that's a thing, I think that's what would have made the Yari a lot more fun to use is like just trying to hunt for walls and just stack like 2 or 3 like enemies and then just stab them through it, like shit like
Yeah, I think
that.
that would have been a lot more fun.
Um,
But even yeah, for the most part, still the combat is just great. I like it a lot. It's still fun.
and then yeah, like and then what you said with the Kasari Gama, it's just kind of like it's one of those just weapons that are just a lot of fun to use, like in stealth
Yeah.
especially. Apparently there is like a funny like trick that you can do with the Kasari Gama. Like I guess if you want to go with like a full Kusari Gama fire build. Like, yes, if you're using Oni,
Jeez.
it's like Oni flame, and then if you're blocking people's Oni flames, then you could just spin it around, and it's just gonna
Oh
set shit
yeah.
on fucking fire. It's like, oh my
Dang, that sounds.
god. I'm like,
I never
oh
thought
my
about doing that. That
god.
sounds incredible.
I'm like, I might have to. Okay, next, if I New Game Plus this, I'm going straight for the
Oh
Kitsune.
yeah,
That's the first
absolutely.
thing we're doing. Um, and I think like I think the only other thing that I can really just speak about in the combat aspect, katana is fun. It's just it's there, but it's kind of like it's funny because the game then made me realize, damn, we really use this weapon for the entirety of Tsushima, and then once we get to
Yeah,
Yotei, it's
pretty
like,
much.
what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting that was able to kind of last the entirety of the game. Um, I mean, not really. I mean, I guess the Sanchez switched it up enough, and the combat was
Yeah, but
still something that was really new and fresh and still felt good for that game.
mhm. Yeah,
Um,
but like
but
once you
yeah,
get to obviously like Yotei, it's like it definitely feels like the evolution of the combat is there.
yeah, no, absolutely, 100%, absolutely. That was there wasn't really anywhere else you could go except for do what they did, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, but that's for better and for worse.
Yeah,
um, but
definitely.
yeah, that's really as much as they could do, and that's exactly what they should have done, and it works super well. It's great.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah,
And now at this point, for before we get into the big spoiler section, I think if I timed this right, I'm pretty sure the podcast, the most recent podcast episode at least, did get uploaded as of this recording. And
yeah.
I believe I gave the game like a 9 out of 10 overall. I think it's definitely
Mm,
one of the best PS5 games like you can get right now.
mm.
That I would probably say it's like if there's 2 PS5 games you should get, it's this and Astrobot. Astrobot is more of because it's the mascot.
Yeah.
It
And I
has
think there's
like
even a Yotei reference
there
in
is
Astrobot
it
now.
there
Yeah.
was an update that added Atsu and
It's
the
so
wolf.
funny.
And it's just like and Erika Ishii actually did see the
I
actual
saw
like
her
Astro.
reaction to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's adorable. But
um, yeah, I think I would probably float around more probably around an 8, really. I think it's still a very good game. And the things that I have issues with don't really bring it down too much because the things I like about it are so strong. Um, I don't see a world where this game is less than a 7 max. But I think personally, I'd probably give it, close to a. I feel like 7.5 is even too low. I feel like it's a good, solid, good 8 out of 10 game. Like it's a really good game.
An 8 is what should be the lowest ranking for this game.
Yeah. I mean, depending on what aspects this is, it's obviously hard not to compare it to Tsushima. But I feel like I think you mentioned this on the podcast. I thought that this would more or less be a game where, it's one of those sequels where it is such an evolution and there's so many things about this game that are done better than the first game that it makes the first game obsolete. And I don't think that's the case. I think there are certain people who I would recommend Yotei to and certain people who I would recommend Tsushima to, depending on the things that they prioritize in their video game specifically and what they like. I do think that there are things that Yotei does objectively better than Tsushima, obviously. But I still think there is an audience that will probably receive one game better than the other, even though for the most part, this is an evolution of the game and it does a lot of things really well. I do think there is still an argument to be had that I would recommend Tsushima to other people over this game. But it just depends on what kind of things you prioritize. And I guess we'll get into those things and maybe why this game isn't a 10 out of 10.
All right. So for like the audience watching this is the beginning of the spoiler section. If you don't want to listen to the spoilers because you haven't beaten the game yet, please go ahead and click off this video and come back to it if you want to. Otherwise, if you don't care about the spoilers, just start sticking around,
Yeah, I know we spoiled a little bit of maybe some gameplay stuff, but this is like the big story spoiler.
We're talking about the real stuff. So
yeah,
right off the gate, let's just talk about our protagonist, Atsu.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be honest, I understood Atsu's character out the gate. Like, I think that was already, it's a basic revenge story, like, at the end of the day. But she was completely justified, she was practically almost dead. She watched her entire family pretty much get murdered. And let's just say, just a particular moment, which we'll mention this character like once we get to them.
Yeah.
Let's just say, the very least, there are things that she's seen as like, yeah, I don't blame her for wanting to kill this fucking group of outlaws.
Yeah, I don't. I don't either. Yeah, I don't know, man. Overall, I mean, I have some points, and that's obviously the biggest thing is about Hansu as a character. I just, for some reason, I don't find her as a character nor her story quite as compelling as Jin's story. And like you mentioned in the beginning, this is a much more like personally focused story, and because of that, I feel like overall, I mean, I know by completing the game, we'll say, and coming to the conclusion of the game and what happens, she does kind of dismantle an overarching oppression of the area I'll just say it, in killing Saito. But I don't know, there's something about like Jin's action in his story, and I feel like there's something about his actions that felt more grand and more impactful in like his world. I felt like Atsu's actions were much more, I wouldn't want to say selfish, but they're more like self-driven, I guess I would say, instead of having, being like a savior of your island. This was much more like a personal story for her. But I just feel like it didn't really quite hit as hard as Jin's. I feel like she feels a bit more one note than Jin for the most part. And I feel like her character arc comes to me way too late into the game. For me personally, I don't feel like she becomes that interesting until a very specific person is introduced in the latter I wouldn't say few hours, but the latter, I would say probably fourth of the game. For the most part of the game, I'm like, yeah, she's just on a one track kind of mind. She's got this whole revenge plot in her head, and she's gonna do whatever it takes. Like cool, but like not. There's not a whole lot of depth to her for the most part for the majority of the runtime of the story.
Yeah, I can definitely see, like, that's kinda like the feeling I had for a while. Like, I'm like, I feel like this character's a little too one-note-ish at times, 'cause it's just like,
Mhm.
I'm just here for revenge and that's it. Like, I have no, like, personality at times. And I think it's
Yeah,
I would definitely say, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is what drives people away from this game because this character is not as dynamic emotionally Jin. Because
yeah. She does
I
like
think
crack jokes and stuff and has a bit of personality, but I don't know. There's something that is maybe it's just a hero's journey thing. That's just like a very I mean it's a typical storytelling, but it's so effective with Jin's story. Um, I don't know. There's just something about her revenge not feeling as like compelling and I mean, dare I say, justified as other revenge stories in media. But and I have my reasons why. We'll get to those specifics later. But yeah, overall, I don't find her as, and you know, I'll just I'm sure there's this elephant in not elephant in the room, but there's this feeling in the air. It's not just because she's a woman. It's
it's
I don't
not
know.
cause that.
It's not just that. I legit think the way that she is written doesn't feel as like committed and it doesn't like feel like she's as yeah like you said dynamic and committed of a character and diverse and has these real complex ideas in her head because she's not really dealing with a lot. Like she doesn't have to really make decisions that are between like this overarching idea of what's good and what she really personally wants to do. She can kind of do what she wants. Like it doesn't really nothing else is really super impacted, obviously, until later in the game when she finds out that, there's other factors in her life that she needs to consider. We'll just put it that way. But like I said, for the majority of the story, it's like she doesn't really have much to worry or think about, and she can just kind of go about what she wants to do. And it doesn't really make her super. I mean, I'm just going to use the same words again, like compelling or dynamic, really. I wouldn't say she's an objectively bad character, a poorly written character. But again, it's hard not to compare it to Tsushima. And I feel like that's an overall. Well, that's a just overall thing for later. I guess I'll mention just about the game in general. But yeah, I just don't think our story and her as a character hits the same as Jin, unfortunately.
Yeah, because like you said, there's just, like, certain factors, like, it just comes way later in the game for Atsu, like, in
Yeah, she
terms of,
doesn't
like,
really
her
have consequences that she's dealing with for a lot of it. And I think to make a good story, you really got to have consequences. And I feel like all these things do come up at some point, and I think are when they do come up, they're well done. But I feel like it gets rushed, and I think it really does get rushed. I think the overall pacing of like I said, the latter third of the game, because that funny that meme was like chapter 2, and you play like 60 hours of the game. I feel like chapter 1 is like 50 hours, or like 55 hours, and then like chapter 3 is like or chapter 1's like 55 hours, and then chapter 2 is like 10 hours, and chapter 3 is like 5 hours. Like it feels
Yeah,
very odd. I don't know if that's actual story pacing, because again, the reason I do want to play New Game Plus is to kind of just beeline this story and see how it actually is paced, or if it's just because there was so much to do and so much exploration in that first part of the game that it slows a lot of it down, and then when you go to these smaller areas like Oshima Coast, um, at the end of the game, they're much more condensed and you don't really have a ton of exploring to do. Maybe that's why it feels more rushed. Um, but overall, like the story just doesn't feel like it's paced as well as Tsushima either. I feel like
yeah,
we definitely have time to kind of, um, I don't know what the right word is, but we just kind of spend more time in evolving the story of Tsushima than Yotei. And like I said over and over again, it just comes, it does come, but it comes too late for
yeah,
me to really care by the end of it. I mean, I do care, but like it's like, well, I wish this would have been like a mid game thing because now we have like story consequences in the middle of our journey that we really need to consider instead of we're kind of at the end here, and this doesn't really matter until I guess kind of after the game, but after that, you're not really playing the game anymore. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's
I
kind
think
of.
there's some of the issues.
I think it's also kind of like when there's when she reach a certain point in the game. Like I feel like in particular when she goes to the Ainu
Oh,
area, I
yeah.
feel like that should have been not as early as, well, depending on how you play the game, should not have been that early. I feel like that should have been like a more of a
Mm,
mid game, or even like after the second act, where she's starting to begin to like realize that she's
yeah.
becoming a, a monster. She's just doesn't care, and she's becoming the very thing the Yotei 6 are.
Yeah, I mean, I think for my playthrough, I feel like, well, you know what? I feel like it was in a good spot for my playthrough because, like I said, I was kind of just like doing everything in every area, so it felt like a good kind of more or less like a cool down round, I guess. I do love that area. That area is gorgeous, and
Yes.
I do think it's like a really nice place for her to kind of just be there and think and be among other people that are living very very different lives than she is in that moment. um but I think you're right. At that time, she is still very much bent on revenge. It doesn't really have much in the way of anything that she has to think about not being on that path. And I think that being in that area and having a moment of reflection and having all these other things come into her life where she really has to start thinking about if this is something that she's willing to do, if it, you know, impacts other people around her. I think that would have been a good spot to have those moments. But unfortunately, in the time of the story, none of that's really addressed to her at that point yet. So it doesn't really. The area is nice, and it's nice to have that spot in the game where there's not really a whole lot of enemy factions, and you are among people who are living in peace and are like pacifists, pretty much. And it would have been nice to have. I mean, she does, get some, some nice advice, and is um, I'm trying to say here. She does have moments of like reflection, and especially with Hochi, where she's telling her that she can kind of understand what she's going through and why she walks this path alone, is doing this and that. So I think it's good for things in that moment for her to hear things like that. But I still don't think that really had a ton of impact on her as a character. Um, until later in the game. But that would have been a good spot for really her to have like at least a start of a character arc. But it still didn't really feel like it even in that moment.
Yeah, because like I feel the reason I say that, like, I feel like that area kind of comes at a really weird spot is because, it could literally be on the cusp of you just barely beating the Oni, or you're just going straight for the Kitsune, and then this is like random stop point for you.
Yeah.
And it's just like
Mhm.
it just feels tonally like at times out of place, I guess.
Mm.
I guess like when it comes to like when you're doing like the three act like story structure, this just
Mhm.
seems this just feels weird to have it in.
Mm. I
But
see. Yeah, I guess I could have probably put it somewhere else. But I mean, overall, I don't really have a problem with that area and where
yeah,
it comes in the story. But I think with it having more of an impact on Atsu, I think that would have been a little nicer to see. Um, yeah, it wouldn't feel like her arc comes so late into the game.
yeah, definitely.
Um,
I think the other thing I think we should just talk. I mean, I have an order on this list. I think we should just, let's just keep in track of like the Ainu camp. So, or like after the Ainu events. So
yeah,
you go to Teshio Ridge, and then right out the gate,
yeah. I think
you're
that's my
obviously
next point too. Yeah.
um once you get to Teshio Ridge, you then get attacked by the Nine Tails, and then you're starting to see the like actual like shinobi effects like take place.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then, you're trying to it's basically what I like about this. The one thing I like about this area, aside from the interesting combat and the exploration, it's also the fact that this is a war on information. That's a very deadly
Mm,
weapon when you consider
yeah.
at that time, information can would take days to
Yeah.
spread.
Mm,
So as you're going through through there, you meet a particular shamisen player named
Mm.
Oyuki. And I'm just gonna say, I'm not gonna lie, I think she's my favorite side character in the game. I think she's up there.
Really interesting.
I think she's okay. At least at that time, I think that's where she becomes very interesting,
Mm.
especially because when you
Yeah.
come come to a particular revelation that she was
Mhm.
actually part of the original Yotei 6. And
You don't say.
oh, when I thought I was like, you know what? I should have known this because there was a lot of notes just like kind of left, like, or there's a lot of breadcrumbs that were just left. Or like, why did she know this much?
Yeah, after rewatching it back, because I was kind of playing this at the same time I was watching Jetro's playthrough, and so I'd kind of play it and then watch
Big
him
shout out
play
to
it,
Jetro,
and
by the
then like
way.
watching it back. Yeah, like insanely entertaining YouTuber that's kind of come up in the space in the past few years. I'm currently playing through Dispatch, which has been it's such a fun playthrough for me to watch him play. Um, but yeah, I was watching him, and there was certain moments. I think he made a point where she's one of the few people when you come across certain people in the world and you're asking about where certain members of the Yotei 6 are, they ask you why you're hunting them. She was like one of the only few people in the game, if not the only person in the game, that never asked Atsu why she was looking for the kitsune. And I was like, oh, that's interesting because she already knows why. um, but no, I don't mind Oyuki as a character. I think her honestly, in some aspects, I think her story is a bit more compelling than Atsu's, but whatever. But overall, um, I feel like her arc as a character feels a little forced. Um, in terms of like Atsu like forgiving her and now becoming a companion. Um, I don't really know because to me, Ayuki deserves death just as much as everybody else. I mean, I understand like it comes from a place of her being a woman in this world, and this like her only way to survive, and she couldn't really escape it, or else she would have faced horrible consequences. Obviously, I understand that, but at the same time, when you really think about it, Saito and the Oni were really, as much as the story shows us, really the only two people. Well, I guess I would say this the is the spider or the dragon? The dragon. Yeah. The only um Saito and the dragon were really the only people directly involved in the murder of Atsu's parents slash overall family. At least what she thought. Um, you know, Saito directly, hung her mother, and the only stabbed her father in front of her. Everybody else was kind of like a passive bystander in the actions of that night. So to me, I mean, she kills the snake, and for again, what the story shows us and tell us, the snake is kind of just there. Um, he, I think he like mocked her and laughed at her. But
Yeah.
besides that, and the dragon didn't really, or the spider didn't really do anything when he was there. And she felt the same hellbent vengeance on both. I guess that, you can argue that the snake is early on in the game. She doesn't really have her arc yet. So, she just hellbent, doesn't really care. Um, but I don't know. I feel like just Oyuki deserves to die just like all the other ones. Like honestly, just,
I mean, can you
I mean,
blame? I mean, I can understand that 100%, especially because,
yeah,
once the revelation happens, and it's just like, I'm like, Atsu has every reason just to just kill her right here.
yeah, 100%.
Like,
Absolutely.
and like, I would legit like be completely, I'm like, I honestly would feel the justification. And then you have to actually kill her protege in the
Yeah,
process, obviously, just because, well, there's still a kitsune running around.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think the thing that makes like Oyuki like also interesting is just the fact that like she's one of the Yotei 6 that actually had compassion to an extent, you know, even
Yeah.
though she was also complicit in the murder of Atsu's family.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think her as a character is neat, but I don't know. I don't know if I love the whole idea of the I'd see. I guess that's kind of the start of her arc, though. I guess you can argue. Um, but I mean, to me, there's overall, I just don't think there was necessarily enough motivation for her. Maybe there wasn't enough motivation for her to like. I wouldn't say maybe just outright just kill her, but I don't know if there was enough motivation to actually befriend her in that moment. I don't know. That seemed a little
okay,
much.
that I can understand. Like maybe not befriending her, but like, okay, you're my
Yeah, at
ally for
least be
now,
like,
but
yeah, I'm
we will
watching you.
talk.
I'm not. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Kind of how Jubei approached the situation.
Yes.
Atsu was much more like immediately like, "Oh, you're right. I'm sorry." I was like, you've been on this path in such a fiery way that this feels kind of odd for your character to just kind of drop it like this."
Yeah.
I think having that relationship be something that is developed over time would have been a little bit better. But I feel like her immediate being like, "Oh, okay, we can be friends now." I'm like, I don't know. I guess she, in that moment, maybe favored, like you said, more information over. But even then, like I don't know. I don't know.
It
I
is
don't
a
really
bit
buy those
again,
events
it's
happening
definitely a
as
very
quickly as they did.
jarring, like, feeling,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, it's
I
still
think
kind of nice that the little arc that she has with the flashback with her mom. They're all playing the shamans in a circle. That's kind of nice. But I don't know, her whole arc happening that fast and just forgiving her like that seemed a little out of character for her.
I think maybe if they, I would probably say maybe if, we could get more info out of Oyuki, that would have been nice, even though we have, like, that little bit of the story of that she was the innkeeper's daughter during the day, and she's a ninja at night,
Yeah.
and
I even feel like that just goes for the overall story. I wish we would have had information because um, even like the flashback. So I had a feeling that at some point you get these little tidbits of flashbacks of the game and of the night and things that happened and how this event happened that night, how this happened that night. And I felt like at least at some point we would get a full, complete picture of like the father's actions, what happened, the entirety of the events that happened in that one night, and then we would get a more full picture. But it's still, I mean, I guess you could still kind of piece things together, but I feel like not having that full picture of really like what happened and the motivations behind everyone that night kind of is another reason why I think the story kind of falls a little bit short at times. Um,
yeah, I can definitely
'Cause
see
even
that.
Yeah, because even in I obviously I think it's an inspiration. I go back to Kill Bill, where you learn about this woman who was on this path of vengeance, and you get kind of tidbits of these people and what their stories are. But then in the second movie, you pretty much get the full events of the day and everything that was leading up until that moment. So you get more of a full, bigger picture of why those things happened. Um, and I feel like that makes the actions of the bride more compelling because you really understand that, oh, these were kind of just shitty people doing a shitty thing, and she's more justified in that. Um, but I just don't feel that Atsu's actions are quite as justified. Um, I don't know. That's just kind of how I felt about the story overall. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what I got to say about Oyuki for the most part. I don't hate her as a character, but I think just the Atsu having that quick switch up with her is just kind of odd. Um,
Yeah, I can see
but
it.
she is not my favorite side character. I'll say that.
Yeah. And I think, like, for me, just, like, what also makes, like, it's kinda, like, also, like, the way, like, the way Atsu's placement is along with Oyuki, they're both women, so
Hmm.
keep in mind
Yeah,
this is what, 1600s Japan? Something like that?
1800s, I think. Yeah,
N Yeah, I'm sure someone can, pull that up, but I'll probably look it up in a bit, but it is, like, a point
yeah, I think it's
in
18 something.
yeah, it's like it's in an era of Japan where, like, obviously, it's still men and women
Yeah,
have roles, and
yeah, yeah.
the one detail that or, like, one of my favorite details about Oyuki is, when she's kinda, like, retelling the story of her perspective of the night of the burning ginkgo tree
Exactly.
is,
Yeah.
because she betrayed Saito, she was branded with, Kengo's, iron, and
Mm-hmm.
she had to bear it because should she scream at all, anything could have
Yeah.
happened. And the fact that the
Yeah.
Yotei 6 are like, we were with a woman the whole time. It's like,
um,
what?
yeah, and that's kind of the only real kind of motivation I really see Atu having is that she just kind of relates and has that empathy for her because she knows what it's like to be a woman during this time and the consequences of being found out, especially in that situation, would have basically have been a death sentence. So in that aspect, I do understand Atsu's motivation for not being quite as harsh with her. But even then, I don't know if that still is enough of a juxtaposition to you were involved in the murder of my parents. I still feel like what Atsu had been up to in that point, she still kind of would have been maybe more or less a bit blindsided by that. But I don't know. I didn't write the character, so I can't really say that confidently. Um, but I mean, there's definitely points and there's definitely like areas of impact in Oyuki's story that I guess I could see from certain standpoints, and especially from Atsu's, background, her upbringing, and obviously, like I said, with relating to obviously understanding what it's like to be a woman during that time. I guess I can kind of see why, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it.
All right, it's valid. And then of course our other side character. Come to find out, Lord Kitamori of Matsumai is
Mm,
Jubei.
yes, yes, yeah,
So should we probably actually first talk about how the fuck did this man live?
yeah. It doesn't make sense. Don't get it. Don't understand it. The story says fuck you, we're not going to explain it, and I'm like, what do you mean you have to did
So
you're going to show us what happened to him in that way? What do you mean you're not going to explain how he lived? Excuse me, it's impossible.
so as what you were mentioning earlier, the fact that essentially three people were pretty much directly involved in the actual murder of Atsu's family.
Yes.
Obviously, the Oni
Mm,
killed her father, Saito hung
mm.
her mother, and the dragon just straight up shot an 8-year-old kid point blank in the chest.
Maybe it was like 12, but I don't
Or something, yeah, 12
it's
probably.
so funny seeing that in the flashback. I'm like, huh, what do you mean he got shot point blank in the chest and fell like 50 feet off a cliff and lived? And you're not going to explain that? What do you mean? He doesn't have like a bad shoulder. Like his arm works fine. Like, what do you mean he's okay? He got shot in the chest, man. What are you talking about? What do you mean it didn't go through him and kill him? What are you talking about? It like I think there are a lot of plot holes in this story. That's definitely one of the biggest
That
ones.
is
I'm
the
like, there's no
biggest
way
one.
in
I was like, there's
hell
no fucking way that we have this
in
character alive right now and well and
in the
fully
1800s, medicine was not that good.
like
Doctors and medicine were not that good to
unless
save
you
that
flew
boy.
to Europe, maybe, but even then, that is a stretch.
Yeah, I do not understand how Jubei lived. But I fuck it. I guess fuck it. We ball. I don't know how he lived. That was crazy,
But yes,
insane.
but yeah, we got Jubei. When you come up to Ishikari Plain, that's what it is.
Mm,
And I'm sure this is probably your favorite side character, easily.
yeah.
I mean, he's definitely got the
Oh, mine? Oh
most.
no,
Oh no.
Jubei isn't either. No.
Oh, okay. So we'll probably get
Yeah,
to
no,
that
Jubei's not
later.
either.
But
Um,
if we talk about Jubei though, I think right out the gate, it's just the fact that one is Atsu finding out that Jubei has been alive
mm,
after all these years, started a whole new life, got to be a samurai.
yeah,
Now, already just the fact that he's living his dream. It's
yeah.
awesome to see that.
Mm.
So
I like Jubei. I don't really have any issues with him as like a character, or, his writing or anything like that. I did find it interesting, and maybe I don't know if this was purposeful or not, but I thought at least, well, I do think their union is a bit awkward, but I think that's kind of like warranted, I guess. I think maybe there might be a bit of jealousy on Natsu's side, um, and there's still maybe even just a bit of spite. Um, of her brother never reaching out. I don't know. I think there's still some hard feelings there. I think that even though it is awkward, I guess it kind of makes sense when they first meet. Um, but I think at least early on, I found it interesting that it felt like Jubei and this. I mean, this isn't really like directly tied to like the feelings about the game, but that the Jubei and Atsu's relationship felt very much like personifications of Jin's struggle throughout his story. Like you have this character who, obviously in Jubei being a samurai, he still upholds the samurai code and honor and trying to do things the right way, and not taking chances and not taking risks. And then you have this character in Atsu who is basically willing to do anything it takes to get what she wants, and is willing to take risks and is willing to do these things, is willing to, kind of just go all out to achieve her goal. And I feel like those are kind of the two kind of things that Jin's fighting against with himself and trying to uphold this code of honor as a samurai in his upbringing and what he's been raised to do, versus doing what is necessary to really achieve his goal. I thought that was kind of an interesting like personification of Jin's internal struggle and having them basically just be the characters of Atsu and Jubei. I thought that was kind of neat. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's kind of the thing that I got from it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot to say about Jubei, really. I think he's a solid character. Great voice actor. I mean, this voice actor, though. Um, um, yeah, I don't know. I think it was interesting kind of seeing him fall apart towards the end of the game. So I think it'd be almost kind of cool to see like where his character would have gone had the events of the story not happened. um, but no, I think he's a solid character. I do think him kind of rekindling and forging his relationship with his sister is kind of nice. And like I said, I think him having kind of throwing away a lot of the things that he almost has a kind of a similar arc to Jin. Once he sees how destructive these other aspects and elements of the world are in terms of Saito and his clan and what they're doing. He's also kind of on the track of like, we just need to do what's necessary to stop these people. Um, so I kind of like where his character goes in the story. But overall, just a solid side character and kind of a solid juxtaposition to what Atsu's doing in the story. I think just a good kind of opposing side character to her for the most part.
Yeah. And especially because, his life, as you mentioned, it's just different, but he's starting to kind of
Yeah, entirely different.
conform. It's
Mhm.
conforming to Atsu in a way where it's like he's starting to throw away the samurai code a bit, but then he's still trying to
Mhm.
uphold it. So it's like a very it's just a big inner conflict within him, similar to Jin. And then
Yeah,
I think what makes Jubei probably like what just makes him a lot more interesting, he actually has family he has to fight for.
yeah. Well, a lot of them left. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see like if it wasn't him at the end of the game, if it was the other member of his family, where that would have sent him,
Mhm.
um, and what path that would have led him down had he seen that happen to basically, as far as we know, the only other person in his family that's alive. Um, if he would have lost basically both of them to well, it doesn't the game. So I mean, we're not in the spoiler section anyway. You find out that Jubei has a wife, but did she die of sickness? Does the game tell you? I don't remember.
I honestly didn't really look into if there was any info on Jubei's wife, but like I'm gonna be honest, I just didn't hear anything about her.
Yeah, because I think Atsu asks, and he said that she. I don't know if she said she died or if it was from something. Um, but I think yeah, I think it would have been interesting if he hadn't, you know, yeah, I don't know how to say this without just straight up saying it. um, I don't know if he would not have succumbed to war by the end of the game if it was the other member of his family. And like I said, where that would have led him to and what path he would have gone down on. And if it would have been, but and at the end of the day, like where do you go after that? Because the person that would have done it's already dead. So I don't know. Solid character overall. That's all I say.
Very
No
solid
real
character.
negatives or positive on him. Yeah.
And then I guess like I made a mistake of just not noting them, but like I guess we could talk about the weapon masters as well.
Mm.
Um I think I mean they're fine. They're fine characters, you kind of get a
Yeah,
little
they
bit of
serve their
story.
purpose.
Hmm?
I'll say they serve their purpose. I think my favorite was probably the Odachi Master though.
Yeah.
Um, he
He
seemed pretty
has
cool.
yeah, cuz like he has like this bravado about him
Yeah.
that just commands a presence, and then it's like then you kind of start to like notice like he kind of breaks down a little bit in terms of his character, and it's just like, oh, he's pretty fucking cool. Like I like this
Yeah,
guy.
he's a funny guy. Maybe if I sing, and he starts singing about the like, oh Dachi, like what are we doing?
That's like this is a great.
um,
I'm like this is a character.
yeah, that was a fun time.
And
No, he
then
was cool. I liked him, and obviously be my like favorite weapon in the game.
yeah,
Good time.
easily. And then what I kind of find it interesting too, like once you start Act 3, I kind of just realized that like Atsu goes straight to Hanbei immediately. He doesn't go
Yeah,
to any other master. Probably
yeah.
likely because they're all way too far out.
Yeah,
But
but I think Hanbei was the only one that personally knew her dad, right?
yes, because
Yeah,
he forged the
yeah,
blade.
yeah. So that kind of makes sense. And like I say, no, it's just another thing that happens a little late in the story. But you skipped over the best character in the game in Kiku.
Yeah, Kiku.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
she's my favorite side character.
that's all right. That makes sense. Yeah, Kiku.
Yeah.
Just the fact that she kind of feels like Atsu in a way,
Mm.
but
I mean, she's the girl that Atsu would have been, you know.
and then until she like realized, I'm guessing the character point you were talking about was then once she started like training, she started to really look like Atsu at times.
No, I mean, when she first gets introduced, I'm like, oh shit, we actually finally the game gives us actual stakes now. Because I didn't really think the relationship between her and her brother was all that pivotal in her really thinking about her path at that point. I thought it was maybe a slight, maybe not even a road bump, maybe a speed bump on her path. But once Kiku gets introduced, it's like, oh shit, now we really have to figure out how we're going to go about this. And this is still something that we are willing to do or not willing to do. And it actually gives the game and the story some consequences, not consequences, but it gives the story some stakes. And it makes Atsu a bit more of an interesting character because it gives her something to think about and it has her make a decision. Well, I wouldn't initially make a decision, but it gives her it gives her more depth naturally because now, and I wish they wouldn't have showed or said the line "I have something new to live for" in like the last trailer before the game came out, because that kind of gives away that something is going to happen that's going to change Atsu's mind. Granted, we didn't know what it was going to be, but we kind of saw something like this coming. I think maybe not exactly her being a an aunt by the end of the game. But no, I like Kiku for a lot of reasons. Obviously, I think it gives the story some stakes. It gets Atsu to really think about the person that she wants to be and the person that, be for herself and, reflective in the eyes of her niece as well. And I feel like throughout the majority of the runtime, for me, I was just worried about Kiku's safety. Like, that's all I give a fuck about.
Yeah.
So it got me more invested in the story. Just a simple addition of her. I think a lot of it also stems from the impact that The Last of Us Part One had on me, where I'm just like girl dad mode after that game. So seeing like this
Yeah.
little girl that needs to be protected, I'm like, dude, I swear to God, Sucker Punch, if you let anything happen to her, I'm not playing any more of your games.
Yeah, that sounds
Boycotting
about
everything
right.
else from here on out. But no, I just loved her. I think her addition just did so much for the story and for Atsu. And it's just great. It's the girl that Atsu wished she would have been able to be had that night never happened, because she never grew up really with her parents' love at a young age. And she kind of sees herself in Kiku, and then she kind of, you can see that she starts to become more of a protector, and is actually has a reason to care about other people beyond herself. It does a lot for the story and a lot for Atsu. And that's really why I really like Kiku. And she's like a solid written, like cool girl character. Like, it's fun.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a fun character, just like through and through.
yeah, and like I said, it gives the story some real tension there a little bit. You're always kind of, like I said, especially the moment when Atsu chooses to fight the dragon instead of helping Jubei save Kiku in the castle, and the castle gets attacked. I'm like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Oh my god, it was the first
Yeah,
time in the
you're just
story. I'm
sort of
like,
the entire fight's happening, but then you're like, what is happening to
in the back of
Kiku?
my mind, literally, that was the first time moment in the story. I'm like, oh shit, please, please, please don't let this happen. I didn't really care much about like actual consequences or stakes for the most part until that moment. I was like, shit. And I realized that character just does so much for me, for the story, at least on a personal level.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah,
Now,
I mean, I'm sorry. I guess I can just mention that later
yeah,
on, maybe. What were you going to
it's
say?
good. Um, yeah, because like I think what you were mentioning earlier, yeah, like it felt like this game kind of didn't really feel like it had consequences until basically you just bring Kiku up.
Yeah,
She's
for
like,
me, at
yeah,
least.
and I don't blame you. It's like I kind of was feeling the same thing too, because it's like the closest thing you were having to consequences was your wanted level was just getting higher, and that's it.
Yeah, enemies
And
look more come out to you.
and that's like surface level shit.
Yeah, and that's another point. That's actually, once we wrap everything up, there's like, I have another little kind of minor list of overall gameplay things. And that's kind of in there too. We'll talk on that later. But yeah, I think Kiku did a lot for me to get me much more invested in the story. But again, like, it just happened so late. And I like that it happened, but I was like, it doesn't, it feels like these are just all kind of like out of order, like kind of paced in like the wrong area a bit. Um, but yeah, she's my favorite type character for sure.
What I kind of hope though, like over the years, is that maybe like some because like when I mentioned earlier, like with Atsu and like the Ainu camp, I feel like it would have been interesting. You introduce Kiku like maybe after the Ainu camp or something, or like along that like
Mm,
level, or like along the kind of like the story beat of
yeah.
it. I think that would have
Mhm.
made Kiku's character a lot more impactful because Atsu just had
Interesting.
this peaceful experience living amongst people who are pacifists. Then you introduce a character who you're trying to protect from the world,
Mhm.
and now
Yeah.
it's like now the consequences are going to start building up at that point, and then it will
Mhm.
only just skyrocket from that point on. I think that's where the
Yeah.
Ainu camp should have, or at least you do one of two things: is either you introduce the Ainu camp later, or you introduce Kiku earlier. Like either one,
Yeah.
I think is
That
what
makes
would have made
sense.
it
I
better.
mean, yeah. I mean, for me, I sure maybe for Asu and her pacing as a character, but I mean, for me, I mean, it kind of just did all the same. Like, I didn't. I thought it was still great. Although, like you said, maybe the timing of it could have been better. Which I can agree with that.
Yeah. Um, but to kind of like quickly circle around back to like the masters, like with Hanbei specifically, it's just
Mhm.
so interesting that she is like the most attached to him of all the
Yeah.
masters. And
Mhm.
I want to say, like, I think what we were mentioning earlier about the exploration, his damn bamboo strikes, I never felt more like confused in my life until I did
I
that.
I thought that was actually super well done. I liked it, but I didn't really know why I liked it. And then someone brought up a good point. Obviously, yeah. I just didn't know how to really put it into words, but someone did it really well. I saw someone online say that it is a really good reflection of like not knowing how to use your dominant arm or your hand to do something. Because that's what Natsu's doing. She's like training her left arm, which is her non-dominant arm. And there's only so many ways you can like reflect that in a video game, but having it be super awkward button prompts to do it was a fantastic way to do it.
Yeah.
It took me a few tries. It definitely did. I was like L3 down
And you're just
R3.
like,
What do you
you just sit there
mean?
just like staring. You're just like,
No,
what?
I was really like, right. I was like, L. As soon as I saw L3, I was like, excuse me, what do you mean L3?
So,
What are you
and here's
talking
the
about?
funny thing too is then like, and mind you, I'm trying to play this on a DualSense Edge, which is their Pro controller. So, and I have my L3 mapped to my left back button. I tried that.
Oh,
It's
lucky
still,
you.
well, it didn't help. It
But
did not
then,
fucking
no.
help. That's the funny part. That shit didn't help either. I was like, what the is this?
Yeah, that was nuts. I thought you were going to mention a bamboo strike in Oshima Coast, the first one that you do there. The lightning. Did you not do
Oh,
that one?
I did
Yeah, I
do
thought
that
that's the one
one.
you were going to mention. Yeah.
That one was also
Um,
fucking annoying. Because I was like, why am I getting struck by lightning 20 times?
how long did it take you to figure it out?
I think it took me like maybe 3 tries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That
I think
sounds
it
about. I
took
was like,
me.
maybe if I do it fast enough, and I was like, that's fast. I can humanly do it. Get these swords out of here. It would have been funny if there was like enemies around, so you could just like throw them at them. Um, but yeah, no, that was fun. No, yeah, doing that whole training arc was pretty fun.
Yeah.
And even like doing the coals, I was like, wait, am I doing this wrong? I was like, and then kind of like thinking about it back, I was like, oh no, that was supposed to feel awkward and weird and timed
Yeah.
off. Um, but yeah, no, that was a fun part. I wish there was more like. I wish that happened when you learned the new weapons, like all the other ones too. I wish you did like
Yeah.
some sort of awkward training thing until you got better at it. That would have been kind of neat.
Yeah. Because like a lot of like, because like at the end of the day, the other like training ones is like, it just feels like, again, what I mentioned earlier, it just feels surface level, just kind of like normal
Yeah, it's
gameplay.
just like streamlined. You get the thing, you learn how to use it, and you're good. Like,
Like this one
it's
is,
like what? Hmm?
it's just like, then you compare it to like Han base, it's like, this is like the most detailed it feels.
Yeah. Um, it kind of sets up for you doing those things for the other weapon masters, but you don't, which is another interesting thing that happens for several other mechanics in the game that I'll talk about later. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like in a movie, someone like has never shot a pistol and they get a pistol and they're like just proficient at it. You're like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
That's
It's
kind of
like,
how it felt getting all the other weapons.
yeah.
And had Apsu ever shot a gun up until that point
I don't think she
in her
did.
life?
I
I
don't
mean, oh,
know.
well,
I don't
maybe
think it's
during her
ever
like
been
other wars
mentioned.
that she was doing. Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
just been mentioned
maybe
she's ran into gunfire, but not like used it.
it's possible when she was. I mean, she mentioned that she was kind of wandering and fighting in a bunch of different wars throughout the year, so maybe she did at some point. But I don't think it's ever explicitly said that she did or not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, those are all. I think all the missions are pretty fun. But I think definitely for me, Dodge one was the best.
Oh yeah, easily. Um, and I mean, I think the only other like really side characters I could really talk about. Oh my god, what is his name? The one that's supposed to be like a Sly Cooper reference. I'm blanking on his name, but it's like you're helping him go into this castle, and you're gonna split the rewards, but then he just dips.
Oh yeah, I cannot. He's like right by the sea on that like cliffside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also can't remember his name right now either. Um, damn, I forgot about him actually. Low key, he was
Like
cool.
it was
And he
like
was he was originally a bounty though.
yeah, he was a bounty,
Yeah,
and then when you find him at Oshima Coast, you find out he's actually being
Sanjiro.
I believe it's Sanjiro or
Is
Sanjuro,
it okay? I know there
but
was a character. I don't know if that's him or not, but that was a character in the game. I'm pretty sure it
maybe.
was named
But
Sanjiro.
I think I think the interesting thing was then like it's kind of like another one of those like Atsu having like a reflection moment where she's seeing that even though he was a bounty and he's being called a lord even though he shouldn't, he's helping people. and he's trying to get them off Oshima
Yeah.
Coast. So that's already like another one of those. I think Atsu's having a reflection moment, like right there.
Hmm.
Like even though it's just like
Yeah, it's very possible.
it's a very trivial character, just exists in the world. Like you could just look at like that, but I think he
Shiro. Shiro the
Shiro.
Swindler. That was his name. Yeah.
That's his name. Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, Sanjiro.
and then fucking Mad Goro. This is a
Oh my God. Never mind. Yeah, I forgot about Mad Girl. Jesus Christ. Probably okay, never mind. Q's my second favorite.
I think Mad Goro.
Um
Mad Goro is the fucking what is his name in Tsushima? The sake traveler?
oh yeah. I
Kenji?
remember his name too. Yeah. Kenji.
He's
Yeah,
I
Mad
like
Girl
I
is just yeah.
Mad Goro is such a fun character because
Yeah.
it's just goofy antics that he just gets involved in and like, all right, I gotta help your dumbass every time.
No, I
And
actually really liked him. Also, I don't know if you picked up on it. Is he is he supposed to be gay?
you know, I'm pretty
Because
sure
he
if I
definitely
looked
makes
back,
side
didn't he?
comments about Jubei.
That's right. He did make some comments to Jubei that's like, is he? Is he what I think? Or is this just being
There,
funny?
there- there's literally, I think there's literally a part where he's like something where Jubei's not there. He's talking to Atsu. He's like something like, "And bring your handsome brother with you." I'm like, what? Did you just
Yes.
say?
He's like, huh?
Yeah, no, he definitely like flirts with Jubei like a few times.
And Jubei's
And I
like,
feel
what
like
the
Jubei never
fuck?
picks on it. Yeah, he's like always like, huh? But no, and I really love him as a character. I think he's super fun. Just a wild personality. Gross, but I think he's just a fun character to have in the game. Because you don't really get. I feel like you didn't really get personalities like that in Tsushima.
Barely
And not
any
to say everyone's kind
personalities.
of not to say everyone's kind of one note, but everyone. I don't know. You just didn't really get personalities like that in Tsushima from the side characters. And Mad Girl is definitely one of them. I thought he was a really fun character to have in the game.
Like, dude, it's just funny to see like Mad Goro go from being like someone who worked for the Oni who stole a musket,
Yeah,
then become a monk, go crazy again, then he became a dentist.
that was a great part. Where he's like, "What's all
The
that
tooth
screaming?" He's like,
break.
"I'm helping people out here." I'm like, "You know what? You're not a bad guy after all, Mad
And
Girl." You're kind of
what's
crazy.
funny too is occasionally I've passed by that same building, you still hear
Uh,
him doing the toothbreaker shit.
that's so funny.
And it's
That's
so
great.
I'm like, I kind of wonder if you just sit there for a long time, you could get like all the audio out of it.
Probably. You know, he was a great character. I thought he was super fun.
Yeah,
Good guy.
he's
Good guy.
a great guy. um, yeah, that's like a lot of the side characters. Other things that just happens. I mean, I kind of listed these as spoilers, but it kind of just feels like, well, this just feels sort of obvious that they're spoilers. I mean, let's just quickly just. I guess bounties are also a thing that we didn't mention, but
Mm.
I don't know. Some of the bounties were interesting, and then others were just like, oh, it's just a normal kind of fight. That's it.
Yeah, some of the stories tied to them were pretty cool. But yeah, it does. I mean, I like them because the only time you really had like one-on-one fights in Tsushima is where you had like certain camps that would have like leaders, like generals and stuff like that. A lot of the fights in Tsushima are just kind of like group faction fights. So it
Uh
gave you a lot more of those kind of like mini boss. Or I'm sorry, you also had the Ronin that you
huh.
fought throughout Tsushima.
Talk about
But I
that
feel
in
like
a
this
bit.
gave you kind of more of that kind of like mini boss stuff, and at least more diverse like kind of mini boss fights. So I thought they're a cool implementation to the game. Again, not something super groundbreaking or super diverse or something that really switches up the gameplay dramatically, but I think it's still just a really a new fun gameplay mechanic, an option to have, and good way to make money. Um, yeah, no, I thought they were really cool. Some of the stories were really neat and compelling, especially the one girl you get the blue demon mask from when she was
Yeah,
like
I
being
think
hunted for the wrong reasons and
honestly,
stuff
she
like
was.
that. Yeah.
I was. That's probably like the one character that I was like, I wish we got more. Like
Yeah, that's
context.
one of the more memorable characters or bounty stories. I thought they're all done for the most part pretty well. I thought the bear guy was a bit of a let. All the drawings that they had seemed like the characters are going to be a lot crazier. Then you get to them, you're like, oh, you're kind of just a normal guy.
And I
The
think
bear one had me excited, but I was like, oh, okay, you're not the actual bear man. I'm upset.
so okay, so like here's my counterpoint to it. Because of again what I mentioned that info in that time would take a while. So you have
Hmm.
only stories to go off of. So Kojiro, of course,
Yeah, that's true.
Kojiro being, the artist that he is, he's just making shit just based on those accounts. So he's just doing
Yeah, that's true.
the best to his knowledge of getting info on them, and then just, this is what they are. And I think that kind of leans into
Yeah.
like the more grounded aspect of this game versus like there were times at Tsushima it
Mm.
felt very fantasy like at times. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think
that's
with like the I well, I still I don't know. I think obviously like the mythic tales and stuff had a bit of that going on, where you get like certain abilities. Um, but um, no, I still felt like they're probably equally grounded a bit. Um,
I
yeah, I
guess
don't know.
I think what I'm trying to like say with this, like I think it's more of like we weren't really getting like a strangers and freaks type of feeling with some of these bounties. Because like what
Mm,
you mentioned, the bear man thing, we were like, oh
yeah,
shit, that actually sounds really cool. Oh,
yeah,
it's just a random
it's a,
Ronin feeding people to a bear. That's it.
yeah. I was like, oh, okay, all right, neat. I guess it was a
And
very
then
easy
like
fight as well too.
and then other ones are just like, oh, it's just a camp. Go
Yeah.
kill them.
Yeah, most of them are pretty cool, but yeah, there was some that were like, okay, just another fight I got to do. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have super strong feelings for and positively or negatively about them, but I thought they were just a fun addition to the game that
Yeah.
Tsushima didn't have.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Um I guess I can just quickly talk about Easter eggs for like a little second because a lot of the
Mhm.
altars usually carry the Easter eggs and they're mostly pretty much just they're just ties to Sucker Punch's just previous works. Like one of them was
Yeah,
even like an N64 game they made, and I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing.
really? Hmm,
It's super obscure. It's like their very first game they
jeez.
and yeah, it's literally like the ass crack of an altar run. And it's just like
Hmm,
I'm like I'm like this is very hidden. It's like not
yeah,
obvious whatsoever. And then of course you have your infamous ones as well, which
yeah, those are
there's
good.
the one with there's one mural that has Cole McGrath and it's like this fire demon, and I guess that's supposed to be a thing in the second game.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember, but it was really cool. I mean, it's a really cool mural they have. I was like, oh, this is neat.
Yeah, and then of course Sly Cooper references as well. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima had Sly Cooper references, so you may as well have them back in this game. It's a
Yeah,
franchise that's sadly never going to come back, according
but
to them at least. It's- but hey, I mean, it's cool to see that
unfortunate.
they're being referenced at least.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean,
Um,
I don't really have super attachment to those games. I mean, I played the first two Infamous games briefly and a little bit of what was it, Second Son, but I never really got into the Sly Cooper games really
mm,
myself.
but still, just cool references to have.
Yeah.
There's even one of the Fallen Pillars actually is a infamous reference as well, and it's literally just called Infamous Strike. And there's like a lightning that hits the
Mm.
pillar. So I was like, oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's a pretty obvious one.
That's the one that's like back behind that, like on the shore, and you got to like climb up there. It's like on
Hmm.
this lone thing. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep,
I got
yep.
that.
Yeah, that one.
Cool.
Um, let me see. The Wolfpack stories, I mean, they're just mostly I mean, they're just kind of stories that we just see of the all your merchants. I think Isaburo is the only one that I don't remember him having a mission at all, other than early than just him telling you, "Hey, there's a monk that's just walking around alone," and that's it.
Yeah, that was about
Um,
it. Yeah.
I think Kojiro's Wolfpack story. I think it's the most fun one because it's literally like just staging a his bounty, and then you're like,
Oh yeah.
and like you put this shit on yourself. It's like you
Yeah, those are pretty
motherfucker.
cool.
That one was pretty cool. Um, Hana's story. I mean, that's kind of like when it started to feel a little checklisty at times because it's just
Mm,
random farms around Teshio Ridge,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then I felt slightly disappointed because it's like, oh, I just throw bombs. Cool.
yeah.
Ron felt like there was like a little bit of a romance, but then I was like, I think that's a protege. I don't think that's
I
really
thought so
romantic.
too.
I was
I
like,
was a
I
little
don't know,
upset.
and I don't know if I'm missing anything else really. Like that's a wolf pack, or I guess the armor is the only one, but it's just like more of well, I mean, I guess you just get access to the best armor in the game. Probably. Hmm. I mean, I do like the
I
armor in the
don't think
main
it's the
books,
best armor. Yeah, I mean it's good if I mean if you really if you're really want to be more diligent at fighting
like
the
firearms,
armed
but
people. Yeah, exactly.
after
Um,
that, it's just like just there.
yeah, I still think the what is it, the bounty hunter and the bounty hunter armor and the spider lily armor, I think, are still some of the best ones in the game.
Yeah, and I
So
think we
just like
missed.
overall
Yeah,
combat ones.
yeah, I think we should just talk about the storyteller missions just straight away. I think those, which is pretty much the replacement of the mythic tales from the previous game,
Yeah,
well, pretty fucking solid. Just
I thought those were
absor-
really good.
flex the art
The s-
and story.
yeah, the spider lily one, I think. I mean, obviously outside of the last one, I
Yes.
think the spider lily one is probably still my favorite one because I was like, oh, we're getting spooky in here. This is fun. This is different. And I think the whole like pagoda imagery is just really cool to me.
Yeah,
There
the
was a
pagoda and the spider lilies, and like usually the spider lily is a representation of death.
Yeah, there was an early concept art of Ghost of Tsushima where he comes across this pagoda like deep into this forest, is like tucked away, and I don't think that ever got into the game. And when I came across it in Yotei, I was like, "Oh, this is exactly what I wanted this to be." When they had that concept art, I was really excited for it. And there was some genuine there's at least those two genuine jump scares that got me during that mission. I was like, "This is cool. I kind of like this."
Was
um,
it going into the actual like house?
yeah, it was that one, and then the one where you're in the cave and like the dead body falls behind the rock.
Yes, that one.
Um, the
The I love that one. Like it's just I think the spider lily story was done very fucking well.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite one. It was a little creepy. It gives you really good armor. Although you don't get like any dies for it. You get like 3 dies for it, and then you get
I
like
think
end
yeah.
game ones for it. But after that, I was like, this is my favorite armor, and I have like red, white, and blue, and then I have like teal and yellow, and then I think there was a purple and red one, which I used for
The purple
like
one
pretty
looked
much the
pretty
entirety of the
cool.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that was my
purple was the
favorite
only
one.
good one, like other than the base one.
And then I think you get like one, maybe one or two more, but like you don't get those until like damn near end game. And I'm like, what the hell, man? That's like the least amount of dies. It's my favorite armor. um,
Yeah, sadly.
but no, I think all those tales were really well done. They're pretty cool. Crimson
Um,
Kimonos were a really good one.
the Crimson Kimono, I think I really like the story of it because it's once again just talking about being a woman in that time, and
Yeah,
you have the fact that you have someone who's basically a shinobi, but not really.
yeah, pretty compelling. I liked it.
I think I like that story. The Undying Samurai I think was pretty interesting with the wind chime thing, but I'm gonna be honest. If you didn't play this like with headphones or you have like not really good audio, I think it would be hard to do that mission because there were times like I barely hear this thing like changing at
Well,
all.
you have to use the charm, and then once you like kind of point in the right direction, the visually blows faster.
Oh, okay. I guess that's one way to do it. Because there were just
Yeah, that's
times
how
I
I
like
did it.
I felt lost. But I
Oh
guess I
no, yeah,
really didn't pick up on that.
you have to pull the charm out, and then if you point in a direction, the camera will zoom in tighter, and it'll start like flowing in the wind quicker. You know, it's in that general direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
that
the
was
other
fun.
yeah, and then one of the other storyteller missions, um, Akazo the
Yeah.
Unrivaled. Let's talk about um
Ah, ah.
so
Yeah,
there is a
yeah.
side story which is actually a reference to Miyamoto Musashi, who is actually known
Mm,
for using a unorthodox dual katana style as well.
mhm,
And well, I will give it this. The whole mini boss aspect was really cool. You know, seeing you're just going to
mhm.
these dueling trees and obviously you're just seeing different vistas and all. That
Yeah,
was pretty
that was.
cool.
Mhm.
And then you get to Takezo. Okay, the first phase is like, oh, this is interesting. It's just, he's just like kind of cool. And then he pulls the ore and it's like the trick is just improvising. I was like, what?
Are you talking about the fight where you're down by the coast?
Yes, the coast one.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I was
And
like, oh,
then
okay, I guess so.
you learn the Takezo dual slash, and then
Hmm.
eventually the top of the world, which is Mount Yotei.
Yeah, yeah. That I still think that's the hardest boss fight in the game.
Yes, Overlord
Like,
Saito, absolutely.
I don't care
The
about any of
fucking
the Yotei six, man.
I like Takezo literally would solo the entire like fucking
Yeah.
Yotei 6.
What the hell, man? Unrelentless, unblockables. Like it was very a fun fight, but man, that was tough. I can't imagine that on lethal. I had to play. I had to use the. I just switched my armor for that fight. I used the bounty hunter armor for that fight.
That's funny because I remember when you told me that, I was like, I think I tried and I just couldn't do it. I was just like, okay.
Yeah,
I
the parry timing is a bit rough.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I think that's another thing about this game overall. Like I said, the combat's more difficult, and I think because of a lot of you know timing for things, especially the parry timing, does feel much tighter in this game than it did in Tsushima.
Yes.
Um, but it does make it a much more of that kind of risk reward feeling. But yeah, you just have to really get that timing down, and it's easier. I mean, I'm sure easier said than done, but it does make that boss fight a lot more manageable. I'm
Yeah.
sure once you complete the game and get all the end game stuff and everything with obviously the guns and all the other armor and charms, it probably does make it really easy to find like a really solid build to get through that fight. But I was doing it like pretty much still really early on into the game. I didn't come back and do it. I just kind of followed that whole side sequence until I got to the fight. Um, and yeah, so I didn't really have much, but I made do.
So
I did what I could.
yeah, I just started looking up cheese strategies. I was like, there's literally I'm like, okay, I'm legit not having like I can't have any success on this fucking fight. Like I have switched armors like countless times. Like I
Mm.
didn't like I started on the undying armor because it increases the parry window if you're aligned with the weapon. I was like, okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
then once you get to that first clash, then it's like there's winter. And it's like, are you
Yeah.
fucking
Oh my
kidding me? So
gosh.
now I
Yeah.
gotta switch. Now I have to play Intaro's armor fully upgraded, so I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was like, I switched to like several charms, and I'm just like, I have no idea what the fuck to do at this point. So I was like, okay, what did somebody do? And I think the only way I could describe the strategy, just Moon Knight the bitch. So
That's so crazy when you told me that. I was like, what do you mean you can do that?
So, and then what I watched was like, so the way it was they disarmed first, and they have to keep a whole mental note of where did the sword land because you're obviously in tall snow, so you don't know where
Mhm.
it is. So you're just gonna have to basically disarm, switch to dual katanas, swipe at him like 3, 4 times, use your equipment, rinse, repeat, and pray to God that you win the fight.
Yeah.
I
So
almost
ridiculous.
it is because it got to the point I ran out of equipment.
Jesus Christ.
So the first time I did it, I actually almost beat and then he killed me at
Mhm,
the end. And then I was like, okay,
mhm.
this just took several tries, and then eventually I got it down, and it got to the point that like I had to actually like keep a note of like what equipment should do I use first before I really have to switch. So it's
Yeah.
and it got to the point that I was like, I have to save my smoke bombs because that staggers him the most mid
Mhm.
animations.
Smoke
And you have
bombs and sake.
smoke bombs. I couldn't get any luck with sake, unfortunately. So like I had to literally just like squeeze in
Yeah, you have to
fucking
really time it because it takes so long.
the
You really
drink.
have to. You almost have to like stagger him and then do it. Yeah, you pretty much have to like do a finishing combo sequence and not commit to it, and then while he's still staggered in that sequence, do one, and then he'll recover. Like you just have to
Yeah.
have a breathing moment to do it. You just have to find it during the fight.
And
Um,
the funny thing too about this fight is that I saw people with the fucking pistols. So I was just like, I was
oh
like, what
yeah,
the
yeah. Like I
fuck?
said, I'm sure once you do all the in game stuff and come back, it's probably a lot easier. But yeah, I didn't have either of the weapons. I don't. I think I had the dual. Did I have the? I think I had. I don't. I only think I had the Odachi, the dual blade, and the katana. Um, and then yeah, I had like sake. Did I even have kunais? I think I had sake and smoke bomb. I think that was all I had to work
Yeah.
with.
And then the pocket sand, of course. I think it got to the
Yeah,
point that I had to start resorting to pocket sand, and that was like the worst one to use to like try to stagger him because it's like I don't know if
yeah,
it's gonna hit him. So I'm like, I'm praying.
yeah. Sorry, not smoke bomb. Yeah. What's that? What was it called?
Mitsubishi.
That's Mitsubishi. Yeah. I had that, and sake. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I got to make this work.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I will admit
Great
this
boss
though.
fight.
It's a cool boss fight. It's visually amazing too, especially like, you see the winter like
Yeah.
just coming in.
Mhm.
And then of course you get his dual get the sword kit, and then you get the probably one of the best hats in the game. Well,
Was that
the the big like Ronin hat that like almost covers your like head, but it has like the little like um
the veil? Does it with the veil on it or no? Is there like
mm,
a row like there's like a big like bowl hat that you get that's like a veil that
that's a
covers your
different
face.
hat.
Maybe it's
The
another one.
the
Oh, okay.
Sandagana, that one's a different hat.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
one
okay.
I do like that hat too, but
I
then
use that for a long
yeah, I
time.
was using that a lot, and I was like, I kind of want to see Atsu's face so I can actually
Mm.
see what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I feel like
But
it also doesn't go well with like her more slender armor. I feel like if you're using Taro's like the kind of the big
that's literally the
broad,
only armor I would
still
use it
yeah.
on.
Yeah, because it just like it looks makes her head look so big. So you have to like use like a big armor with it. Definitely looks the best.
I mean, you could also just use the Tengai fucking helmet, make it look
That is
weird.
true.
But yeah, Takazo the unrivaled, craziest fucking side
Yeah,
boss, man.
it'll go down in history. It was
Yeah.
fun.
But the real mythic tale, the
Yeah.
real one that connects this game to Tsushima. So we've had different experiences coming across this because I want to hear how you came across it.
um, Man, I think it was just one of like the last things that I had to do. Was it after? No, I think no, it was definitely before I beat the end of the game. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it was just like a natural thing that I just like kind of came across during the latter stages of the game, and just doing exploration. And unfortunately, like I had kind of gotten spoiled leading up to it. So when I got to him, I was like, oh, I know what this tale is. I didn't know how detailed it was going to be and where it was going to take me, but I knew that that was going to be the tale for when I found him in that area. Um, but I still think it's really really cool. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And the way I came across it was just because I basically just did. I'm going to only do side content until I have literally no choice but to go into the main
Yeah,
story. So I
gotcha.
think it was I fast traveled to somewhere, and I think it was the gift altar. So I fast traveled from
Mm,
there, and I was starting to walk, and then this Ronin was just hanging around the alley, and he's just like telling me, "Hey, there's a um, don't try going looking for the storm blade or something like that." Or he
mm.
was just talking about that, and then I just go to the area, and sure enough, fucking Ugetsu is there, and he's just telling us the story of Jin Sakai.
Yeah, I just found it there naturally. I don't know if I was in the area or if I was like starting side missions. I just kind of went to him. I was like, oh yeah, this is the one that we get to see this. Um, yeah, I love how they like kind of piece it together and make him seem like such like a mythical. I mean, he has a couple nods in the game as well too. But yeah, no, I love how they kind of tell his story and kind of wrap his story up in terms of the events after the game and how he lived out the rest of his life and some of the Easter eggs into kind of what he was doing after the events of the game. And how he just like kind of just go about treating his character, I think was super, super well done. I really liked it.
Yes, yeah, they just perfectly honored him, especially
And I also, hmm,
so like especially when you're like going through that area and then you're just like seeing like all the shit that you would do from the first game, like haikus. You're seeing
yeah,
the equipment he used as well, and then even when you go to that one house where those I don't know what those plants are, the white ones that if you walk
oh yeah, that was
slowly,
beautiful. Yeah,
yeah, if you walk slowly, like Atsu does the same thing where she just sticks her hand out and just kind of like feels
mm-hmm.
it like brush against her.
And it plays the original soundtrack for the
Hmm.
first game.
And
Yeah,
then the big cinematic shot, and I was like, oh my
mm.
fucking god.
Yeah, it was super well done. And I also like for, I mean, I feel like that's kind of their way of being like, yeah, we're not really interested in necessarily continuing Jin's story. This is just how we're going to wrap it up, and that's just kind of what we want to do. And I don't have a problem with that, honestly.
I don't mind either. I mean,
Yeah,
I felt like I mean, the fact that he already has Tsushima plus the Iki Island DLC, I'm like, that honestly was like, there
yeah,
really isn't nowhere else you could go with Jin.
yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people are saying that we could just have the second Mongol invasion and
Eh.
having him battle against the Shogun since he was an obvious threat to the Shogun's rule and all this stuff like that. But I don't know. I would very much like this sequel. I would just want something that's very much more departed from that. And I feel like it would have been kind of worse as a sequel because it would have been an even safer sequel than this already is. Because it's like
Yeah,
we have the same
exactly.
character. They're after the events. I mean, like, what are you really gonna do? There's only so much they could really do with a sequel that's directly after the events. And not saying that they can't innovate or can't do things differently, but in this goes with how Yotei turned out as well. Sucker Punch kind of were their own worst enemy, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot because they crafted something so unique and so organic and so well done and polished in a genre that is so oversaturated that it was such a special thing to really experience at that time when it came out. And that would just made the sequel feel almost pointless. It feels like a direct sequel, like we're just doing the same thing again. Like I don't know, like they just crafted something so well that they could only go so much further with it um, in implementing their like open world design and everything they want to do. That they pretty much forced themselves to have to create something so different as Yotei to really separate it tonally and narratively. Um, for it to make sense to warrant a sequel. I don't think having a direct sequel for Jen's story would have been received very well. I don't know. That just wouldn't have make sense. I mean, we already, like I said, you already got the DLC for it. I think that's kind of where you just need to go, and anything after that will just feel like you're playing the same game over again. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Because like the only and plus like to my understanding, the history of that second Mongol invasion wasn't even that long either. So
yeah,
like
it wasn't.
if they were even to do another game, they would have just had to make like a Miles Morales level of sequel where it's just more of a condensed game
Yeah,
and you're just gonna retrace like all the same probably POIs as well, and just
and then
not
at
gonna
that point, people would have complain that it just I mean that was my issue with Miles Morales. Like this very easily could have just been story DLC for the first game. Like this didn't need to be a fully fledged like $50 whatever it was.
or
And
like a launch PS5 game.
yeah, it didn't need to be its own standalone thing. This could have very easily been just added with one of those DLC packs, like the City Never Sleeps, whatever it was. Um, yeah, I just don't think that really warranted its full game, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I'm just, and there's another kind of point that I just wanted to add earlier. I didn't really know what to really put this in, but I guess since we're kind of just talking about this story again a little bit, my worry going into Yotei and maybe even just like playing it more and having obviously to have her little character shift was that they're going to go the Last of Us 2 route, and I really didn't want them to do that.
I
Where
was very scared
the
that they were about to commit that, and I'm like, please don't fucking commit a Last of Us
yeah,
2.
I thought they were going to do that, where we go through the whole story, we kill all these people, we kill the members of the Yotei Six, we kill all the other enemy factions. We have this hellbent revenge just to get to this last person, and we get to the last person who, mind you, again, is directly responsible for. I mean, pretty much the father too, because and without him going to the house, obviously that one would die, but directly responsible, like actually directly, literally, physically, directly responsible for the murder of your parents. And the only person that is directly responsible for your parents' death, we don't end up killing. So it just makes every other death up until that point pretty much pointless. Um, that kind of would have been really dumb. I'm just glad we
Yeah,
actually
there was
committed to
definitely,
the revenge arc.
yeah, I was definitely scared that they were starting to really lean into it. I was like, please don't do it. Please don't fucking do that. Like,
Yeah, like you. Yeah, I was
mm,
like, no, you can't do this. We go through this whole game and we kill everybody to not kill basically the last person that's solely responsible for all of everything happening. Like that just doesn't make sense. Everything then at that point, literally everything falls apart and it's completely pointless.
yes.
And it's an objectively bad story. I
But
do
luckily,
though
that
I do
doesn't.
think yeah yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm just glad I didn't do that. But I mean, I think there still could have been an interesting way, and this isn't really a knock, but just thinking going back to Tsushima, where there could have possibly been an implementation of like a canonical and a non-canonical ending, maybe just seeing where if Atsu doesn't have this arc and she lets her selfishness get in the way of the people around her, what does that look like instead of her actually having a change? I think it would have been neat to have like two different endings,
Kind of like
especially because
Tsushima's.
of the way yeah, exactly. Especially because of the way the game sets up the end game. We'll get to that. Um, but I think that would have been kind of cool. But I don't really know how you would have done outside of that. I just am not sure. But I think that just would have been neat to at least have those choices there. Um, but like overall, in terms of just like the game and its story and everything around it, and like I said, with its presentation, its impact, and everything. At least on a personal level, I got the same feeling again after playing Tsushima, where it's like, damn, I just want to consume more like samurai and feudal Japan media now. And so I after the end of the game, I started watching more samurai movies and getting into more Akira Kurosawa stuff again, like I did right after watching Tsushima. So even though it's I don't think it is amazing in every aspect, I still think it is influential and crafted well enough to at least warrant some of that inspiration and wanting to explore more of that media. And that's also, I think, just a really highlight of just how well crafted Sucker Punch did with this game. Like I said, even though it doesn't hit everywhere for me, I still think it definitely hits those notes that I would want in like a samurai story, where I want to go now. I'm influenced by it and want to go explore more of those stories because this one is still, at least in like its craft and presentation, is still wanting me to experience more of that.
Yeah. I think you just kind of said it perfectly. Uh, when it comes to this game.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think we'll try to quickly like hit these like bullet points because
Mhm.
we surprisingly did not talk about the Yotei 6 enough.
I
And I
know.
mean,
Yeah.
but let's just be real, like they are kind of just our overarching villains like at the end of the day, but
Yeah.
I do think they are still interesting enough characters that it's kind of like you kind of want to dive deeper into their lore.
Yeah. I
Um
mean, I think we talked about. Well, I mean, not the predecessor Kitsune, but the original Kitsune. But
yes, yeah, Oyuki obviously being the original Kitsune, and then
yeah.
now it's this new one,
Hmm.
but still carrying, you know, the Kitsune like mantle,
Yeah.
through and through. And
Um.
I guess we should. Should we probably just go straight into the Yotei 6, like our rankings of like their boss fights, essentially?
Yeah, sure.
So,
Um,
how do you want to do this? From best to worst or worst to best?
I haven't really sorted all of them out. I think I can do it really quickly, just in a general idea. I think the weakest one for me, it has to either be the kitsune or the spider. I know those are also kind of at the bottom of your list as well. Um, as the worst one, not bad, but just the weakest ones, I would say. Um,
Yeah, I can agree to that. Yeah, because I kind of have them
yeah, I
both
think we
kind
have
of
a similar order actually.
I think see what kind of hurts for me is like the Kitsune had some probably the best build up, and then the fight was like serious
Yeah, I thought it
because
was.
the
I don't
the
know. Yeah, I mean
visual was
having Oyuki there.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think the visual was cool though because you're fighting on that like little like pond of like lanterns.
yeah,
I
that
think
was
that
neat.
was really cool. But
Mm.
then after that, but it was like, oh, this is a mugging. I'm not even like having a hard time with this fight. It's just because Oyuki's there
Yeah,
and
it's like you're
just
using a summon. You're like,
yeah,
okay, I'll just let you do the work, I guess.
it literally feels like yeah, you're using a summon in Souls. So
Yeah.
um
But it's like I don't need it. Like, what? Why are we doing? What are we doing here? I mean, I guess it's cool because it's like it's more personal for Oyuki. Um, but
yeah, it's
overall, as like a boss fight for the player, I was like, okay, wasn't really into that one too much.
um and then the spider is kind of just more of uh it just felt like a normal fight.
Yeah,
You,
I don't
even
have any
though
strong
after a
feelings.
particular even after a particular moment for obviously those characters, it just felt like a fight. And that's it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Again, just another one where I do have super strong feelings about. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. Um, but then you also know that like you're not really gonna kill him, so it's kind of odd. Um, Spoilers, I guess. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I don't know. That didn't really do much for me either. Like it was a neat fight, but it didn't really do anything super different, or especially as like more of like almost an end game fight. It didn't really do anything neat or different that any of the fights that came before it did. Um, for me, particularly, at least.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. Yeah, it's just like it
Mhm.
just didn't do anything for me. Just felt like a stop. It just felt like a kind of like a speed bump of a fight.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, bu- 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 then the next one I have for me is the snake.
Mhm.
I think this is just more of I just like the fact that this is where it starts. It was just a really good way to start it
Yeah.
off. And I mean, even though it
Mhm.
wasn't that complicated of a fight, it was just still cool that this is the first thing you do. And I love
Yeah.
I gotta give it to the actor, the voice actor for the snake, because it's like you can tell he is a piece of shit the whole
Yeah,
time.
that's I was gonna say, yeah. I think like it's kind of a good way to start off with like someone who's just like despicable and doesn't. I mean, I don't know. It's a good place to start because um you're introduced to this character who doesn't really have a whole lot of morals and doesn't really have a whole lot of remorse for the character, and it doesn't seem like an ounce of remorse or regret for being involved in anything. So it's kind of a good way to chart the start of the path of vengeance. Not really someone who you feel bad about dying, and it's
Yeah.
it's fun. Like the whole like drunken fight is cool, and having them introduce like the wolf mechanic is neat. Um, and then the whole like kind of mythical idea of Atsu, like I don't know what they were setting up for. I was like, is she not human? Because like she obviously dies and then she like comes back
Yeah.
to life. I'm like,
That
what
one
the
was
fuck
like
happened
I'm like,
there?
didn't she just I'm like, she just got stabbed like right at a vital part. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think the game's supposed to end right there. And then she's alive.
Yeah, I was like, that was kind of odd. But then, she gets up and then she wipes the blood on the name. I was like, okay, this is okay. We're this is how this is where we're going. I like this. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. It was definitely a good way to start the game. I agree with that.
I mean, and I just love the kind of like just the presentation of like that whole cutscene, like her just walking in, it's a rainy night, and then she brings the torch.
Hmm.
And then you see the snake, head down, all in a drunken like
Yeah,
stupor. And he's like, give care to give a light. And
yeah.
I'm like,
He's
oh my god, he's
actually
a
actually
piece of shit.
Yeah, I actually like him a lot. I think he's actually probably one of my favorite of the six as a character. He's just like cool and despicable. There's a bit of I was watching a video. There's actually a bit of a backstory um,
I think
to
I know which
him
one you're
and
talking about.
why he kind of just like turned out as miserable as he did. He like the runt of his family or something like that, and he had like he had some sort of like
Disease.
yeah. So I think can't think of the word. Like I don't know if it's like an autoimmune disease or
It
some
was.
disease
I
that
think they
like
were kind of like trying to. It was something similar to like tuberculosis or something like that.
yeah, or something where like his body was like super frail. But yeah,
And
no, I think as a character he's super cool.
yeah, it was a yeah, especially because like you can see like the way his visual like he's designed. It's very skinny bone. Like it's just
Yeah.
meat. It's just like barely any meat on bones, but he's
Yeah, and the
still
fact that he
like
like basically, I mean, yeah, basically kills you, and then he's just in this drunken state makes you realize how like probably lethal of a swordsman he really is. Like it's kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
like it's really the only boss fight that canonically you struggle with, and it's like, oh, that's weird. But he's like completely drunk and out of his mind. How dangerous is he sober?
Yeah,
It kind of
exactly.
gives him this. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I hate to use this word unironically, but it does give him, not gonna lie, a bit of aura.
Yeah, literally.
um, yeah, no, I think
That's
he's definitely one of my favorite characters.
yeah,
Although I really love the dragon still, but the snake is a cool way to start the game.
yeah.
I will agree with that.
Um, so now rounding to like the top three. I put the Oni at number three, and he was like my favorite fight for a while because I love
Mm.
the presentation of like all the phases. Like it starts in the root in the like his chambers. So
Yeah, one of
you're
my I
just
think my sorry, I was gonna say I think one of my first screenshots is her pulling out her katana for that boss fight in that room, and the lighting in there is just like so good.
Mhm.
Like the moonlight coming through. I don't know if it's a skylight or whatever is in the ceiling and just shining into the like the whole lighting in that room is really really cool.
Yeah, it's just
Mhm.
such a visually like appealing fight, I would say. Like
Yeah, I was like, ooh, I
and
like that. And then him
yeah.
having the odachi is super cool because I think not too far before that is when you get the odachi for the first time.
Yeah, because I think you have to go
Think.
to Tokachi range is the Adachi. So it's kind of like they're right next to each other
Yeah.
in a way, but they're not in the same area.
Yeah. I was like,
But
okay, Odachi for Odachi, let's do this. And then you can like light, and he lights his on fire. I'm like, oh, okay,
I
we're
love
doing
the way
this.
he lights
And
his
then you
on
like
fire
light
because I was
yours on
like, that
fire.
is so cool.
Atsu has the same animation too, and it's sick.
Yeah, it's like the
She like has it behind her back, and she like lights it and pulls it behind her back. I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome.
yeah,
So cool.
it's just one of those like it's just visually so fucking cool, and it's like this is like one. It's like we hate using this word because like TikTok generation,
Mhm.
but it commits
Yeah.
aura. It just commits it.
Yeah. No, it's
It literally commits it. It's like
it's
it's
pretty
just
sick.
yeah. That was a really yeah, and I just love the fact that the Oni just feel. It seems like you want to have remorse for him because it's like from what they're kind of like alluding is that he's like a failed hero, and I
Yeah.
really like that.
Yeah. I kind of more took it as just like he, I wouldn't say failed general, but like he was destined to like be greater and he just couldn't reach that. So he just decided to like, I don't know. What would I mean? Interesting that you say failed hero. I don't know if I really caught that in the story.
Well, like here's the thing to consider is he always has prizes of like all his previous fights. The musket is
Hmm.
kind of like a MacGuffin for the story to
Hmm.
move. So, and it's a collection of his. And then you also
Hmm.
have the handle from one of Atsu's swords as well. Why is he collecting
Yeah.
prizes? And
Mm.
what do warriors just kind of like brutal ones usually do? They collect like something to
Hmm.
signify that they are, an actual threat. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And if the also
Yeah.
and it's also the fact that he's kind of like he's also annoyed that he has to basically babysit a construction of a castle. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
that
like
is
you
true.
could
Yeah.
tell he's
Oh, oh,
yeah.
yeah,
But
sorry.
it's all good. But I think that's just like why I just think the Oni is just kind of like that was like one of my favorite fights for a while, and especially again like you mentioned, the Adachi blade was just no. There's not really a lot of fights where I barely see Adachi blades like get used. Like I see them, but not a lot.
Yeah, mainly
Um,
just the brutes, and then the regular enemy
some
factions are the only ones that really had it,
yeah,
and
like
even some of them had hammers.
I think it's like usually the generals that would usually have an Adachi blade, and then that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, he seemed like kind of like a fallen general. That was, like I said, kind of more maybe set up and destined for like greatness, but he just has to like be at this specific command that he kind of has a bit of bitterness towards. Um, but he just kind of like fell in where he could. But no, that's still a good fight. I think mainly just like aesthetically, that's just a sick looking fight.
Hmm. And
Mm-hmm.
then just seeing the obviously the Oni mask like fall off on the second fight.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, once that second phase happened, I was like, I should have expected this, and then I was just like, just seeing it is just again love the way it plays out. I just love how they
Yeah.
transition into that second phase. Like it's just you two crashing into a
Crawl.
random like fall into like some random area of the castle,
Yeah.
and then just
It's
seeing
like
him,
back area.
yeah, and then just seeing him just kind of just become very like again is like what I mentioned earlier, like with Tsushima, kind of fantasy like where he's just tossing
Mm,
the fire in like this pattern or like in a line, and then he
yeah.
just comes
That's sick.
straight at you. It's like holy fuck. It's,
And they
it's,
defeat him, and she's like, crawl. I'm like, oh, okay.
and
More
then
aura, I guess.
like again, yep, and
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The whole story of that fight's good.
yeah. Then I have the dragon at the second spot.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
which I'm pretty sure people can figure out what number one is already. But to quickly talk
Mhm.
about the dragon, I mean, it's just one of those. Again, it's just visually, it looks really cool because you're just in this kind of like you're off the coast and it's just like a boat wreckage. But then you're seeing like the background, Clan Matsumai fallen, and there's
Yeah.
a war happening, and you two are just having a fight. But then you got to worry about the spider shooting you in the process. So already immediately it's like, okay, this fight is you're gonna have to take in a lot just from a visual perspective. And then the way the dragon has I love the dragon's disarm move when
Mm,
you launch the booyah and then he just kicks it. It's just like
but yeah.
I was
Like, geez, man.
like what the fuck is
Disrespectful.
that?
Yeah, and it's really the only boss fight that you can go like gun for gun for, and that's really fun too.
Yep.
Although I don't think I had. Did I have the? I don't know if I didn't have it or not. Or didn't have ammo for it. I think. But yeah, it would have been really cool to have more of like a gunfight in that fight. 'Cause it's like the only one that uses a fire.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I
they
agree with most of this list
yeah, and the
in
spider, I
that
mean,
order.
he
Then.
did use a pistol. I mean, well, he did just random. He would just. I still
Yeah.
remember when you were watching. I was like, this man just pulled out the unblockable like off rip. Like, are you?
Like right.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
the
like, but
Dragon's pretty good. I think he's one of my
drag.
probably favorite designed of the six. I think
Yeah, I
too.
think, okay, if I can actually like quickly talk about that, the one thing I'm a little disappointed about, why didn't we get more of their armor? Like, we only got the snakes. Did you notice
Yeah,
that?
that was kind of odd. Yeah, we get everyone's mask except for the own. Well, no, I think you do get that one mask.
Yeah, you
No,
do. Yeah, you do.
you do.
Ev-
Okay. Well,
You
unless
do
he
get
steps
everyone's
on one and
mask.
breaks it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even
you
I'm
only
like,
get the snake armor, which I
yeah,
was like, that's kind of odd.
yeah, because I would have ran the dragon armor like just to run
Oh
through.
yeah, absolutely,
Then the
100%.
Kitsune armor is pretty cool, but like I'm pretty sure they
Mm,
probably have an excuse for it though, like just to not include it. Maybe if
yeah.
they go with a whole like PlayStation update where like in Tsushima they had like the PlayStation IPs be their own armors. Like there was
Oh yeah, yeah.
like the
God of War
Kratos
one.
like the Kratos Sakai armor, the
Yeah.
the Bloodborne one. Rest in peace, Bloodborne.
Mhm.
And then the Aloy armor as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I was that was setting up for you to collect all of them. And I feel like I said, as last talking points, the game had did that for several things. But anyway, yeah, no, I think having it was kind of odd that you only get the spider and you don't get anyone else's. I don't know,
Snake.
maybe a design choice between that. Oh, sorry, yeah, the snake. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning behind that would have been, but
That,
kind of odd.
for all we know, that could probably just be they just couldn't squeeze into time for it. For
Yeah.
that's probably the best we can really think of is like maybe just not enough time to implement their armor, or it's just too.
Mhm.
Or the other reason is probably like it's too similar stat wise, or for in terms of stats, it's gonna be too similar to like what's already in the game.
Yeah,
That,
that's fair. I mean, it could have just been like a visual thing, anyway. But
yeah, I
I
would have
mean, yeah, I don't know.
probably a visual would have worked because like
I mean, even if like,
realistically, go on.
yeah, I mean, it could be in a later update where they add all the armor and then you could just like transmog all of it and still keep stats from other armor or something like that. I'd be down for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if it's not clear, number one, it's Saito. Come on. Are we really going to question this?
Mm,
How can we? I mean, right out the gate, it's just it, thematically, it's perfect that you're fighting at your
yeah,
home.
he's definitely the toughest of the six, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Um,
And it makes sense. He's
yeah,
the leader for a reason.
yeah. Um, I think he was actually more annoying than Takezo, though. For some reason, I don't think he was as hard, but for some reason, he was just more annoying to me.
Yeah, I kind of was
Some of
starting.
some of it
I
seemed kind of like bullshit. I'm like, wait, why are you just like, what's happening?
I kind of was starting to feel that at times. I was like, okay, this
Yeah,
fight feels kind of BS at times.
but that was, I mean, granted, that was literally probably the only fight in the entire game. I mean, including even all the Takazo fights, all of the random bounties, all of the other Yotei. I think that was the only fight in the game where I was like, okay, this is actually kind of getting a little annoying. I don't want it. This is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, overall, I mean, I still don't know if I like his fight more than
Then dragons.
I really don't know who's actually. I mean, aesthetically, in order, yeah, it makes sense for this order, but in terms of like the actual ones, it either has to be. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess Saito was probably the most satisfying once you actually completed it, but it was definitely the most annoying of
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
fact that
for
like
sure.
all his multiple phases too, it's like yeah, I don't know. I felt like it what did he have like 3 phases or something like that? Because I know there's the initial fight, then there's you with Jubei, and then Jubei
Yeah.
dies. Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
wow.
And a friendly reminder, we're supposed to believe that Jubei can survive a
Yeah.
point blank shot at like 12 years old, fall 50
Not.
feet, but one sword stab and he's dead. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy. Insane.
Anyways, I
Suspension of
guess
disbelief,
Saito
I
has
guess.
the magic sword that could that just kills everything. But
um.
yeah, but again, thematically makes sense. Just you fight at the Ginkgo tree, visually amazing. But yeah, there was definitely points I was like, okay, this fight is kind of starting to feel really BS at times.
Yeah. I
Like
was I
especially
was
the
really worried when I saw the 3 resolve at the top. I'm like, is this motherfucker gonna start healing himself? What is this? And then he just used it for like special stuff, like whatever special resolve abilities. I swear I thought he was gonna start healing himself. I
I
was like,
as
I'm
if
out.
I
Like, what
yeah
do you mean?
if when I saw that too, I was like, I swear to God, this man pumps his chest. I'm actually probably gonna stop. I'm like
Full life bar.
full life bar, and I'm
That would
like,
have been nuts.
yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, nonetheless, though, I do like the Saito fight. I think it just tops it for
Mhm.
me, but like I can definitely see a case where like the dragon fight I think would overtake it. Just more in the sense of
Yeah.
it's just a much more unique move set that you kind of got to deal with and a more unique situation you're in compared
Mm.
to like Saito
Yeah.
where it's literally just all of them in one character.
Yeah. For sure. I think I still take, like I said, Takezo in terms of overall like difficulty and just like fun out of all of them.
Yes.
But yeah, I do. I think by the end of it, Saito's probably the most satisfying to beat out of the 6.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
Definitely.
Um,
So, but then obviously, you beat Saito, then everyone realizes something that, well, Jubei is dying.
yeah,
Yeah,
very unfortunate. But yeah,
a
no, I
very
was. That's what I was talking about earlier. I wonder where that path would have led him had Kiku been the one to, because there's obviously that cutscene before the fight starts where Kiku is running from Saito. And I'm like, she's gonna get shot in the back. I can feel it. She's gonna get blasted in
yeah.
the
The
back
whole
and she's gonna
time you're
die.
just like you're
Yeah, I
just
was
on the
on
edge of your
the
seat,
edge of
like
my fucking seat. I was like, dude, please. I thought that felt like a very like that the way that shot was panning. I was like, she's dead. I've seen this too many times before. Um, I think they kind of knew that too in the way they set up the tracking of that camera in that shot. But yeah, I would be just interested to see like in an alternate universe had Kiku been killed, what that would have looked like for Jubei, and like how his life would have continued, what he would have become after that.
mhm.
But yeah, Jubei's death. Um, I mean, I don't know. It didn't really, not that it didn't really hit for me, but I was like, damn, that's tough. That was kind
This
of
is
it.
like another now, like another one, another orphan, basically.
Yeah, but well, I mean, at least like someone brought up an interesting point where it's like you know, Atsu experienced this exact same thing happen when she was probably about Kiku's age, and she really had no one and didn't have the comfort of her family there. At least Kiku has someone to comfort her. She has Atsu in her aunt, and again, it's still the little girl that Atsu is healing in herself and in Kiku. But yeah, no, it's a interesting ending. Um, and I'm sure we'll get into the actual like ending of how they set
Yeah.
up the end game and everything like that.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
I think we should probably just quickly talk about like I kind of just have this plotted as very interesting choices that were made in the game. And what we mentioned earlier and what you mentioned earlier,
yeah,
there's plenty of plot holes in this game. Like
yeah. There
off
are.
rip, what we mentioned earlier, Jubei somehow again, we're just gonna keep saying it. Jubei survived a point blank shot and fell like 50 feet off a cliff, but one
No, don't
sword
get
stab
that.
to the fucking like kidney and he dies. All right. As an
Yeah,
adult, by
doesn't
the
make a
way.
lot of sense to me.
And it's like they
I'm
have
sure he's
no
suffered
way
worse than
to
that in war.
like, and there's no way they wanted to like tell us something. It's like, hey, does he have like an injury or something that he's currently dealing with?
Yeah,
And it's just,
that would have been something. Yeah, that would have been interesting.
but they
Uh,
chose not to. And again, for all we know, that's either timing or they just never considered that idea.
yeah, no idea. It's like a bunch of
Um,
things were done and not media illiterate.
oh, I'm just starting to. Oh, I guess we could talk about it. Like, um,
Hmm.
we forgot to mention something about in the Jin section. Um, there's a little context clue that there's a possibility that him and Yuna actually settled out
Oh
a
yeah.
Yotei. I
Hmm.
can't believe we forgot to mention that. But there is like it's one of those. I remember you asked me. I was like, "Am I just not like being media illiterate or something, or like is there?" And I was like, "I think that's supposed to be left up to your interpretation because like it's possible kids were there." But I saw another perspective that said this place is old. So for all we know, there could have just been random kids just drawing stuff.
Yeah, that's true. There could have been. Um,
So, and I think that it was done like that on purpose.
mm,
Um, and then other things that I realized too about that gin fight or the well, quote unquote gin fight. Um,
mm.
the the Ninetales you were fighting actually does a lot of Jin's moves in the fight.
The Nine Tails.
The Ninetale that was using the Stormblade,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, those are all that. Literally, those are exact moves from all the
it's just like
stanzas.
it's
Yeah,
like I'm fighting Jin.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it
So
was funny. I was like, I recognize all these animations. What the hell? Yeah,
yeah.
I know. I've seen these moves before. um,
But
yeah,
yeah,
that was cool.
that's
And then you get the Heavenly Strike. No,
yep.
it's not Heavenly Strike. It's
Or
yeah, I forgot what it's called. But you get the cool shit where you do the
You
3
got,
slashes.
yeah, the cool and the fact that it's a disarm as well is pretty insane.
Great.
Um, but yeah. Um,
Um,
but I think we should talk about the bigger elephant in the room just to kind of get backtracked into the weird choices of this game.
yeah.
How do they explain this game's post game?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. No, I have a list of just kind of overall odd things. Just going back to earlier about different gameplay mechanics. The only thing, just the fact that in a lot of the gameplay trailers they were showing specific gameplay mechanics that initially seemed a lot more pivotal to the overall gameplay than they really panned out to be. Like
Fast.
interrogating seemed like a pretty significant mechanic in which way you want to chart and path your journey and what you want to go do and what you want to go see. But outside of like literally the very beginning of the game where you like auto interrogate people about specific members of the Yotei 6, you honestly never really get to do it again. And once you do it again, it kind of just auto does it for you. Um, but yeah, the only time you ever use it is to choose to reveal information about the Yotei 6 in literally the very beginning of the game. And that's kind of it. And it never really pops up again,
Yeah.
which I thought was really odd. And then I know you had mentioned it too as well that the flashback sequences. It was one of the first mechanics they really ever showcased, and it seemed like it was going to be something that you're just going to be doing all the time throughout the game to get more backstory and just more lore in general about Atsu and her family and just the events. But the main times you do like 3 or 4 times, like at the house in the beginning of the game, and there's like maybe like 3 or 4 other places throughout the world that you do it, and it's a very minor thing. And that doesn't really become a huge mechanic of the game either. So yeah, both the memory flashbacks and the interrogations are really not key pivotal part of the gameplay outside of like the beginning few hours. Um, and even the whole wanted level thing. I think I had maybe a couple random encounters where you get stopped by people and they're like, "We saw your bounty. We're going to attack you." Outside of that, it doesn't really seem like you become this like infamous person. I think you obviously you get more talked about. And you hear NPC dialogue talking about like the Onryo and things like that. But I feel like as far as having like an actual wanted level, it doesn't really seem like you have people coming after you much more between the beginning of the game, like the end of the game. Maybe right after you kill the snake or the Oni, you might have a couple more factions, but it doesn't really seem to be all that impactful in terms of like the overall story of the game and how that affects like enemies attacking you or anything like that. Those are the only kind of couple odd things. I think we mentioned the NPC stuff already, and then there's a couple other things. But yeah, those were. I know that's the kind of thing that you mentioned.
Um, yeah, it's just a lot of that stuff was just kind of like this just seems a little weird that you're promoting a lot of the mechanics you were mentioning, and it's just like it's only used in one area. But I think the flashback sequences though, I think it's the
Yeah,
one that's like I kind of now start it's kind of like okay, it's kind of coming back to me as like this makes sense on why is it only in one area. It's like, well, did she really know anything beyond the grasslands? Like, we don't know that.
yeah, no, it's true. Um,
That could probably be the only reason, and that is probably it. But everything
yeah,
else
but
though
then
is really weird.
yeah, I feel after that. I mean, if that's kind of only going to be your real place to use it, why not just stick with using flashbacks? Just throughout the story, I guess. Because if you're really gonna if you're gonna implement this whole mechanic, I mean, low key, low key, I feel like it was just a flex to use the PS5's SSD.
Yes,
um,
literally. That's honestly what it felt
but
like.
yeah, the only reason they really wanted to implement that mechanic is to show you how crazy this game loads, and how fast the PlayStation 5 can load things. But from an actual like real design and story point, I think just using flashbacks would have been just a better way to do it. You get kind of more deeper well, no, I won't say deeper context, but the fact that it's used so sparingly, flashbacks would have just been just as good throughout the game, I think, personally.
Yeah, definitely. And like another thing that I don't know if this happened to you like a couple times when you set up the camps. If you
Mhm.
sleep, you'll go into the Saito sequence.
Yeah, a couple of times. I think I slept maybe like 2 or 3 times by the entire game. But yeah, that happened a couple of times.
Yeah, and
I
I
did
thought it
see
was
that.
gonna be like the one thing I was like wondering. I was like, I wonder if this is gonna be more pivotal. And I was like, oh, this doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, not really. Not really.
And then
um,
the merchants like coming around. Like I'm gonna be honest. There were just times I'm like, I don't need you.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can really just fast travel to them if you really need to. Um, and you come across these different areas of the game where they're these basically like home base areas where they're all going to spawn at anyway. So once you get to a new area, you see all of them anyway. So they don't really need to come to your camp. And you do find them kind of out in the. I swear, every time it was at some point it was either not when you actually physically set up camp, but just out in the world. You can they'll be kind of out there camping, so you like meet them at a camp randomly instead of having to set up one up yourself. I feel like 60% of the time it was the Ainu merchant being like, Kakema, to trade for wares? I'm like, I don't need anything from you. I legit don't. I don't want anything. You have the same stuff the entire game. I do not want to trade with you. Stop talking to me. And then the other 40% was Ron. I was like, I don't need to upgrade my bow. I see you everywhere. Like we're good. Um,
Yeah. I think I
and
had
everyone else, I
more
was like,
of
I can just see you. Yeah.
I had more of Genji showing up and then Taro. And
Really?
that's it.
Okay.
I had
Taro's
more of
everywhere. I'm like, how are you over here, little guy? Like, what the hell? You're everywhere.
oh come on, he's a fucking scavenger. Of course he's gonna be everywhere.
I don't care. I was like, how did you get? I just talked to you in a different area 5 minutes ago. How are you back over here, set up and ready to sell me more stuff?
I mean, even
Um.
after you like kill like or you destroy like a Saito camp and he's like, oh he's there.
Oh yeah, he's
What?
just there. Yeah. He's like, you're the one keeping me in business. I'm like, why are you? How are you how are you talking about? How did you trek all the way up the snow? I fast travel. You can't do that. Yeah, no, yeah. Every time you clear out a camp, he's like, "You've been really keeping me in business." I'm like, "Get out of here! I don't stop talking to me.
You
You
like
have
just want to
nothing new for
punt him
me."
like into the
Yeah,
fucking stratosphere as soon as you
like
see
shut
his
up,
ass.
child. But yeah, I feel like that whole mechanic. I mean, it was neat, but even just like, I don't. So, does playing the shamisen do anything at camp
It
at
just
all?
it just does dialogue and that's it.
Oh, yeah, weird. That like did nothing for me. I mean, I would sit there and cook if I really needed like the resolve, or if I wanted like that 1 day charm or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, besides that, the camp wasn't super impactful. You can do most things you want to do by just like visiting them at the regular, like I said, those are like home base whenever you get to a new area. So that wasn't all that crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of like a lot of like the small stuff that they were really
Yeah, I
trying
think
to
I know you wanted to mention. I think both wanted to mention.
the end game.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's definitely a point that
We
I
definitely
have.
I think we should, yeah, because like I think we're gonna keep beating a dead horse when it comes to like the weird small things that happen in the game or like the promotional stuff. But I think we've said
Yeah,
enough on those. We need to talk about how the hell did they explain the post game?
yeah, I don't know. It's well, for one, and this is why I would want to come back to it. This is why I desperately think we really needed a new game plus on launch. The end game content is, to me, I mean, there's pretty much nothing. um, After you beat the game, you go back home, and Kiku is there, and so Kiku's like living with you now. And then you're kind of talking to her and telling her about your adventures and how kind of the events of the story unfolded. Um, and then it sets up for you to start telling Kiko a story, but in the form of like a flashback. And you get, the flashback, you get taken back 6 months before the death of Lord Saito. And Atsu is like, well, it started like any other day. And I'm like, oh, are they giving us like one last little story bit? Are we setting up for what the DLC might look like? Are we getting a little hint at maybe what the next game is going to be? What are we doing here? Like this is an interesting little setup we're doing where Atsu's going to tell the story to Kiku, and it might reveal just one little last thing with the story or something that's going to happen. and then you just kind of start playing the game again, and nothing else happens, and you're like, wait, so that was nothing. That didn't set up for literally anything. But at the same time, it specifically sets you up 6 months before basically, I guess, the end of the game. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is a neat way because, once the game ends, that's kind of, the end of Atsu's journey, really. She's kind of done. She doesn't really need to fight anymore. Everything she's done, she's cleared all these enemy factions. So it's a cool way to set the game back 6 months so you still have enemies to fight and things to engage in. But then the world doesn't populate with any of those enemies. So it's like, wait, what's the point of setting it back before Saito's dead if you're not going to give us any of Saito's men to fight or anything like that, or new stuff to? I did all the exploration before the end of the game. So it literally feels like there's no reason to set that up because it has literally zero payoff. It's like, why wouldn't, if you're just going to do that, why would you just kind of end the game there and just let it continue playing? Because it just feels the exact same. Like, I don't know. It was kind of an odd choice, and to me, it doesn't make sense that it doesn't set up for anything. And it feels like it's setting up for something, and it just doesn't. And it's very odd and very weird.
Yeah, that's that's kind of once that happened, I was just like, I'm confused. I'm like, the whole time I was just
Yeah, I was
like,
like, did I miss something? Was I supposed to go, like, was I supposed to go somewhere and do something? What happened?
yeah, because when I was playing that, the first thing I said, like, 6 months before you kill Saito? And I'm like, come on, there's no way that in the span of like realistically, I'm like, there's no way this spanned 6 months of you killing the Yotei 6. This had to at least have been like
Yeah,
three.
I don't know.
Like at
Yeah, and I was like,
best, 3 months.
yeah, I was like, what are we really setting up for here? Like, what's going to happen? And then it's basically like it ends the game just in the normal way it would have ended directly after the events, but it tells you it's 6 months before, and nothing's different at all. And you're like, what? And then on top of that, it's super immersion breaking because you go back to your house and Kiku is still there. She's sleeping, and you're like, wait, how is this 6 months before the death of Saito? I've Kiku's been here for this long. Why is she even here right now? Did I even know that Kiku existed this long ago? Like, it's weird. It's very odd, and this is not like it like doesn't line up at all.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I kind of I was like, okay, you're losing me. Like once you told me that Kiku was just there. Like
Yeah,
when I
again,
heard
maybe
that, I
I'm
was
just
like,
like, huh? What is she? How is she here?
yeah,
I was like,
so
maybe
it's
I'm dumb and I'm just not realizing something, but I don't know. To me, that doesn't really add up. And I don't know. It's very odd. It's a very very odd choice to end the game like that.
yeah, that's
Um,
I'm finding it. I'm having a hard time like trying to still like wrap my head around like how they explain their end game, but whatever. Just I
yeah,
guess
I
it's whatever the
mean,
writer's
yeah,
choice.
yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's like, like I was mentioning earlier, the only thing I really can do is pretty much what I do on Red Dead now. I get on the game, I ride around my horse and realize, see how pretty the game is. I'm like, damn, this game is really good looking, super pretty. And then that's kind of all I can do. Like, there's not really any enemies to fight. I did all the exploration, all the side content's done. I mean, obviously it took me a while, but I was like, die hard just playing this game because it was so engaging. But yeah, I mean, now we just kind of wait and there's like nothing to do. And I know like Tsushima's New Game Plus came very much later. Um, but I feel like maybe, I don't know. I don't know why I feel like I didn't have this problem with Tsushima. Oh, well, I think maybe because the island was more populated with enemies to fight
Yeah. There were
at the
definitely times
time.
that like I have to just run around and stand there just to maybe come across something because
Yeah, I
I was
think
dumb
Tsushima. mm,
on my post game. Like I was just like, okay, I just have like some leftover stuff to just kind of go through. Like
yeah,
mostly just it's just
the
typical
rest of the platinum
collectathon
stuff.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
and like one of them was literally the Yari or like the shoulder charge one that you throw people
yeah,
off the
same.
cliff. I was like, I honestly forgot I should have done this, and I'm like
I
literally
got
just
so lucky.
I just kept like running around the coast, and I'm like, I'm praying there's a patrol like nearby, and I was like, oh look at that, there's a patrol, and then I just kicked him off the cliff, and he died.
Yeah, I got really lucky. I thought I was on a cliff and I didn't, and I was like, "Wait, that's not a cliff; it's like a ledge." And I had like travel somewhere else to do it. But yeah, no, I think Tsushima's end game. They just had the island more populated still, so there was still a bit, some enemy factions to fight. I don't remember how quickly Legends came after the release of the game, though.
I think it was just
Um,
like maybe a couple months after, because like I think Legends came
mm,
out at least in that time. Like Ghost of Tsushima came out in July 2020, and I think Legends came out like maybe in October or November.
and maybe I was playing other games too, so it didn't seem that apparent. But yeah, I don't know. Very odd choice. But I mean, at the end of the day, um, I think Yotei is still, stands on its own as a great game. But at the same time, I still feel like it just kind of lives in the shadow of how unique and impactful Tsushima was, like at the time, especially at the time that it came out.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't really like to say this because I mean, I will say it is more or less still kind of a safe sequel. In saying that, I do think it is still a better sequel than games like, Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2 and, Jedi Survivor, other games I do consider safe sequels. But I think this, again, I think I may have briefly mentioned this. I feel like this is less a safe sequel because of the lack of innovation and creativity. But I think it's just a safe sequel because of how great Tsushima was. And there was only so far they could go with an already incredible formula for crafting and designing an open world action adventure game. They built upon the things that they could have, but they crafted something so well in so many aspects that it's like, it's one of those if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of things where you have this specific art style that will never age. You have this combat that just works super well. This exploration in this open world is some of the best out there in any game. It looks incredible. The game's presented in an incredible way. Maybe the story falls apart a little bit, but there's only so much you can really go with how polished and incredible they designed the formula for Tsushima that I don't really blame them for creating something that feels as like feel like we've kind of been here.
Like as samey as like um Tsushima.
Yeah, but even then, but it's like I said, I think it's still a better sequel than any of those games because we're dealing with a different character and different environments, and different weapons, and different gameplay styles and things like that. But just in terms of like crafting the same general like overall experience, it does feel like it very much. Obviously, it has those bones there, but all of it just still works just as incredibly well, if not better than Tsushima. That it doesn't even really. It's not even like a it's not even necessarily a bad thing to call it a safe sequel, even if that's the truth, because all of it just still works as well as it did in the first game. Um, and that's where the argument comes in, where it's like, well, even if someone asks you who's never played either game, which game do you recommend? Or if I had to buy one game, which game should I play? And I can't just say, well, just play Yotei because it's better in every single way. And I'm like, well, I mean, not necessarily. I think the biggest obviously difference with this game is its tone. It's very tonally different from Tsushima, with a lot of aspects, not just the story. Um, but it's like if you obviously kind of want more of this samurai epic experience that has a bit of a better story and is just beautiful with its colors and it's still a great open world game. Um, and you prefer maybe more of like a dynamic story with a dynamic character that has a bit more of a compelling journey, then yeah, I'd probably say Tsushima is probably the better game for you. But if you really, really love the journey of exploration and mystery and figuring things out and really prioritize combat in your video games and love the way things are more so presented and set up visually and maybe don't really super care about the story aspect of video games, then Yotei might be the better version. It really just depends kind of what you totally want to get from like a samurai, or like a feudal Japan, or just like a samurai Japan experience. Um, and for all intents and purposes, even though I don't think this game is perfect, Tsushima and Yotei are still objectively the best samurai experiences you can get on PlayStation.
Yeah, but
Um,
I mean, the only other game was Rise of the Ronin, and I just heard it was okay.
yeah, you got Rise of the Ronin, you got Assassin's Creed Shadows, and you have like
I
a
don't
couple other games.
I don't even count Assassin's Creed Shadows after what they just added.
Yeah, I saw that. A lot of people aren't super happy with it. But you have like Trek to Yomi. I mean,
Yeah,
you've got some
that one
options out
too.
there, but like in terms of an overall experience, that's super well polished and just plays really well. And it's just like, I mean, at the end of the day, I know we hark a lot on the story of Yotei, but man, the highs of that game are so high that, and like I said, as much as we ragged on the story, I still gave the overall game an 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
I still think the experience of playing the game, and you gave it a 9 out of 10, is still worth it, right? Whether you care for the character of Vatsu, whether you necessarily get super into the story, I still think that both games really, and really Yotei, is just the best example of how to craft an open world experience that is so well polished. You can't really find that, and there's just this specific soul that is really in these games that you just can't really find in other open world experiences. It's just, and again, I'm saying this unironically, but it is true. It just is built different. Like it just is. I think that experience is just, just worth your time. Like I said, especially with the way Yotei is presented, um, it's stunning. It's a stunning achievement in polish and presentation. Just, there's so many great things about the way that game looks and feels. Is incredible, and those are the best things about it. And those things I think are done better than Tsushima. Story aside, I still think it's a phenomenal game that does so much that no other games can even come close to doing, and that's an achievement in itself.
yeah. Um, Especially with open world games,
Mm.
I usually tend to say if an open world game can have you go on a objective path, but then you just go on a slight detour, and then the detour takes you into a much more interesting area, or about as
Mm.
interesting of an area that's away from the main mission. I think the game is doing something right. And that was the feeling I
Yeah.
had. I mean, to bring one open world game to another, Elden Ring. Like, we
Yeah.
got, I mean, Elden Ring is a vast, vast world. And there were just times I'm like, I'm going to go this one way and I'm just going to see what happens. Or I'm going to go try to fight this guy. But then it's like, oh, wait, there's something over here. And then I'm just going to keep going
Yeah.
further. And it just becomes this rabbit hole of exploration.
Yeah, the way it's just crafted so organically and just how it flows, it doesn't feel like you're going here because the game wants you to. It's literally just like, hey, dude, kind of do what you want to do. Like, it doesn't feel like, I mean, like you said, it doesn't feel checklisty at all. It doesn't feel like the game is requiring, it's forcing you to explore or begging you to go here and figure this thing out. The game doesn't really ask anything of you in particular. It's like we're laid out this world, explore it how you want to, and then just get out of it what you want. You can chart the main story and just beeline if you want to, but they just, like I keep just going back to saying that they just crafted it so well that it's so immersive and so engaging, and you just don't want to stop playing it because you're
Yeah.
just always trying to be like, oh wait, what's over here? What's this cool thing? And like POIs are designed, and the way I think a really interesting underrated thing that Sucker Punch does is the way they use color to designate certain areas and to catch your attention. Like, oh wait, what's this yellow thing and all this mist of green and brown? What's this red thing over here? Like, it's just really, and it doesn't feel like, I don't know, it just feels so organic and natural, and it's just crafted in such a like borderline flawless way. I think it's still the best open world I've experienced in a video game. Maybe not. I'm not saying necessarily it's the best open world game I've ever played, but it is the best open world I've experienced in a video game.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Granted, I know the Elden Ring. I get that goddamn flower bitch. Hate him. Um, but but yeah, and that's just the game that I really haven't experienced. I tried to, and then I got humbled, and my ego wouldn't let me continue. But uh, um, outside of that, I've played pretty much most every other open world game, and I think Yotei, in terms of how it's crafted and how it charts you through its open world, it just does it better than anything I've ever experienced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just a testament to I'd even say in terms of exploration, like what you were mentioning with colors too, the game kind of just takes the what like a lot of horror games are doing recently with yellow paint, and it's sort of carrying over into like other games, and people are like we're very annoyed with this mechanic or this aspect of exploration. And then you look at
Mhm.
Ghost of Yotei. Granted, they sort of have that too with the shrines, but it's like it's kind of like it's not really obvious. It's kind of just sort of blends in. And then
Yeah.
like what you were
Also kind of
mentioning,
in universe.
yeah, it's an in-universe thing that makes sense. It's not
Yeah.
like it doesn't feel out of place. So, um,
Like who painted these rocks green? Weird.
yeah.
um,
But I guess to before we wrap it up, are is there any hopes for a DLC for this game? Like, I'm gonna be kind of honest. Even if they do
yeah.
it DLC, I just don't know what they can really do other than go down to the south, and that's it.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know what they'll do, but I would like to see something other than just the multiplayer, unless the multiplayer is just incredible. And they do a lot of really different things. I even think maybe even some PvP stuff for multiplayer would be a lot of fun,
Ooh, that'd be fun.
depending on how they design it. Yeah, but no, I do think I would maybe expect some sort of story DLC. Honestly, I would love like a Kiku, like 10, 15 years down the line, see what kind of like
Oh, yeah, that would be cool.
Shinobi, like the second Shinobi or something. That'd be super sick.
Yeah, I
um
think that would be
and
cool. Like, maybe I mean, the only other thing you really could do with the DLC is, like, try to unfold what did Kengo exactly do to Saito? Because it's I mean, obviously, it's just like, "Oh, he just deserted Clan Saito during a fight," and I was like, "There's gotta be more than that."
yeah, it seemed it's interesting because it seems like because of the name, like Kengo was like a really pivotal member of Clan Saito. So I'd be really interested in what role he actually played, because he was just like a random dude. And he's like, I mean, it doesn't really make that compelling, but you would imagine that he always talks about he abandoned us when we needed him. Like, I wonder what like he was really responsible for during in his involvement with the clan. Clan Saito, not the KKK. Like when I say the clan, that
Damn,
just means the Ku
not
Klux
that
Klan.
clan.
Um, he was an early adopter. No, um, that'd be interesting to get a backstory. In his involvement, I think that'd be neat. Yeah, I just don't really know what they would do. But I would still like a story DLC at some point. And I think it'll be definitely after the multiplayer. Well, maybe around the same time. I don't know.
I mean, if it
Um,
depends on the timing because the multiplayer is supposed to be next year, and well, director's
yeah,
cut what was more in line with the PS5 release, or maybe like a year after.
yeah,
So if I had to take a guess, like at minimum, it'll probably be a year from now when we get the supposed
yeah. I would
story
say so.
DLC. That way they either A could craft an entire world, or they just plan to do your idea, which was Kiku in 10, 15 years as
Mhm.
like the new shinobi of some type.
Yeah, I also don't know where we would go for like the next game, because I don't really know if they'd be bringing back Sly or Infamous. I It'd be interesting to see if we get like another Ghost game, but I think we were both talking about how kind of the end of the samurai as a whole was kind of not too shortly after the events of this game. I think they started dying out at the end of the 1800s, kind of. Was it like, yeah, I think it was like 1870 or something. I don't exactly remember. But it wasn't too shortly after this game that the samurai kind of started to die out. So I don't know where they would go for next game if they wanted to do another game in Japan. But honestly, at this point, I have so much faith in Sucker Punch. They could just craft whatever open world they want to in whatever setting, and just make it just a third person action adventure game. And I kind of don't care what it's going to be. I know it's going to play well and look incredible and be so fun to explore. Like I kind of don't care what it is. But I would just, I don't know. I mean, another samurai game would be sick because the way they craft Japan and have all this, influence in the history and the culture of feudal Japan at that time is fun. But like I said, I don't really know where they would go from here since it's kind of the end of, all of that. Maybe there was some Ronin that still survived or still wandering around Japan in like the 1900s, but I don't really know. I don't really know what their next IP would look like. Um, but I would just be excited to see where they would go after this. I don't know if we get another like Ghost of Japan game.
That's
But
honestly
yeah,
the only other way I could see it because, like, if you want to do this as like a quote unquote trilogy, you may as well just go to the mainland. Just do it. Just go big, go
yeah,
home. Just do it like as
mhm,
like a kind of Red Dead Redemption it, where it's like the end of the samurai or
yeah,
shinobis, and just do like a Ghost of Japan, and then just have fuck it. I would just say maybe just do it as like a group of Ronin slash shinobis are kind of like trying to settle like one last like score, or like they're trying to aim for the shogun or something like that. That would be my guess.
yeah. That would be cool, and I feel like it would just get so much comparison to Red Dead, though. But I think if they craft it well enough, then yeah, that could be a really cool thing. You actually have like a group and like a gang that you're actually with. Um, yeah, that would be pretty neat. But yeah, we'll see. I think they could definitely easily craft another Ghost game since now after two games they know it works and know it doesn't work and know how they obviously they're wizards of crafting games like this. So I would have nothing but faith that they would craft something that's just as exceptional as these two games. As long as the story is really there, then I have no issues. I think it would be great whatever they make.
I think the only thing that I would like to see Sucker Punch do, and this might sound very ambitious, but hear me out. Next Ghost game, they have a drop in, drop out co-op feature. If they do the gang idea.
Yeah, that game's not coming out for 12 years.
Yeah, that
um,
again, ambitious, but one can dream,
yeah,
right?
that would definitely be a way to really shake up the formula and really not feel like kind of just like another installment of what's to be expected. um yeah, that would be pretty cool. We would see, I mean, we just in due time see how they would craft something like that. um yeah, I would love that. um that would be really cool to have like a co-op samurai game and that you can like kind of build your crew or whatever. Like that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be super sick. But we'll
Yep.
see.
Yeah, that's I think
But
that's
the
just
future
where
of
we
that
can end it
studio is
off.
pretty bright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The future of Sucker Punch looking really good right now. It
Oh
is.
yeah. Got to get
But
some of that. I got to get some of that Sapporo.
oh yeah.
This
I know you've been telling me about this Ghost
Yotei
of Yotei
Sapporo.
Sapporo.
I've never had Sapporo, so it'll be my first time trying it.
Hey, there you go.
We'll see.
Yep. We'll go ahead. We're gonna go wrap up this video. This is a very long video. Holy 3.5 hours
Yeah.
of this, man. This is a 3.5 hour
Jesus.
video. But
I was like, it'll be here for like an hour, maybe. Yeah, it won't be too bad.
and I was like, oh dear God, it's not an hour. Oh, you know what's funny? We only spent it was an hour of us explaining the surface level.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, a lot of it was story stuff. We will we'll see if you have enough footage to cover everything.
I think I think I already put the footage. I think it's like under 20. I think it's a little short of 20 minutes, so I'll figure
Oh,
something
okay,
out. But
cool.
we're gonna go ahead. We'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching the gameplay and listening to just two fanatics of the Ghost franchise after platinuming it. I don't know if I'm gonna make this like a normal thing, like just sort of doing this in-depth review style. But I think
Yeah.
with Ghost, it just kind of has that impact on me that not a lot of other games really do outside of maybe Expedition. But that's a much more longer video, and I've already streamed that game, so my thoughts have been said on it. But we're gonna go ahead, wrap it up. Thank you guys for listening or watching. We'll see you next time, probably on a podcast. or whatever game I decide to record. We'll see. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Have a good day. Good night.